Good evening. This is the regular joint meeting of the Oakley City Council, Oakley City Council acting as a successor agency to the Oakley Redevelopment Agency, and the special meeting of the Oakley Public Financing Authority. This meeting is called to order at 6:30 p.m. Roll call. Councilmember Fuller.
Here.
Councilmember Meadows.
Here.
Councilmember Williams.
Here.
Vice Mayor Henderson.
Here.
And I am Mayor Shaw, and I am present. Will you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? All right, item 1.3 is a certificate of recognition to the Rotary Club of Oakley. Can I get the representative from Oakley to meet me at the podium? All right, this certificate is presented to the City of from the City of Oakley to the Rotary Club of Oakley in recognition of their outstanding achievements and significant impact on Oakley as the best nonprofit of the year. Your tireless efforts and dedication have made a profound difference. So thank you so much for everything that you and the entire club do. And if you'd like to, I know you like to talk.
No. I mean, there's people in here that know me, and that's true, but tonight, no, I'm good. I just want to say thank you.
All right.
I appreciate this.
Can we get a photo of anyone that would like to come down? We get the council to come down. It's not
I
just.
know, but she's got the camera.
It's not just me and you.
Should we put all the pins together, all the outside of the pins?
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, and I didn't bring my agenda, so next we're going to do Community Planning Month. Ken Strelo. Sorry, it's a little awkward. All right. So Community Planning Month, whereas change is constant and affects all cities, towns, suburbs, counties, boroughs, townships, rural areas, and other places, and whereas planners can help navigate this change with data-driven insight and expertise that provide better choice of how people work and live. And whereas community planning provides an opportunity for all residents to be meaningfully involved in making choices that determine the future of their community. And whereas the full benefit of planning require public elected and appointed officials who understand, support, and demand excellence in planning and plan implementation. And whereas the month of October is designated as National Community Planning Month throughout the United States of America and its territories. And whereas the American Planning Association endorses National Community Planning Month as an opportunity to highlight how planning is essential to every community and how planners are uniquely positioned to identify solutions to communities' most difficult housing, transportation, and land use questions. And whereas the celebration of National Community Planning Month gives us the opportunity to publicly recognize the participation and dedication of appointed Planning Commission members who have contributed their time and expertise to improvement of the City of Oakley. And whereas we recognize the many valuable contributions made by the professional planners of the City of Oakley and extend our heartfelt thanks for the continued commitment to public service by these professionals. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Shannon Shaw, Mayor of the City of Oakley, along with the members of the Oakley City Council, do hereby proclaim the month of October 2025 as Community Planning Month in conjunction with the celebration of National Community Planning Month. And you want to say a little something?
No.
And you guys head on down one.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mayor Shaw. My name is Ken Strelo, Community Development Director with the City of Oakley. I'm joined by Jose Cortez, our Senior Planner. Not able to be with us tonight is Evan Gorman, our Associate Planner. And I just wanted to point out a couple things. City planners take pride in being skilled in creative problem solving, bringing people together for participation, and doing many things as far as all the way ranging from things like general plan adoptions, housing element adoptions, to helping you, the citizens of Oakley, understanding how to build a shed or an ADU in your backyard, answering questions day in and day out. They take pride, the planners here in Oakley take pride in helping the community and being a part of the community. We appreciate this very much. Thank you.
Such a big group. And if for Code Enforcement Appreciation Week, can I get Conrad to come up? And all of the amazing people in that department? Code Enforcement Appreciation Week. Whereas the state of California has proclaimed the second week of October as Code Enforcement Appreciation Week, and whereas the Code Enforcement Officer provides for the safety, health, and welfare of the citizens within the city of Oakley through the enforcement of local, state, and federal laws and ordinances dealing with various issues of building, zoning, housing, animal control, environmental health, and life safety. And whereas the Code Enforcement Officer has a challenging and demanding role and often does not receive recognition for the job done to improve the quality of life for residents. And whereas the role of the Code Enforcement Officer has expanded in recent years, with jurisdictions increasingly relying on the expertise and training of code enforcement officers in their communities. And whereas the Code Enforcement Officer is a dedicated, highly qualified, and highly trained professional who shares the goals of preventing neighborhood deterioration, enhancing communities, ensuring safety, and preserving property values through knowledge, training, and application of housing, zoning, and nuisance laws. And whereas the Code Enforcement Officer often has a highly visible role, particularly in the city of Oakley, and regularly interacts with the public and a variety of federal, state, county, and local officials in a capacity as code enforcement officers. And whereas the city of Oakley wants to recognize and honor the code enforcement officers that serve our community and acknowledge their role in leading the way to improve the quality of life within our community. Now, therefore, it be it resolved that I, Shannon Shaw, Mayor of the City of Oakley, along with the members of the Oakley City Council, do hereby proclaim October 12th through October 18th, 2025 as Code Enforcement Officer Appreciation Week.
My name's Conrad Fromm. I'm the Chief Building Official for the City of Oakley, and I get to manage the code enforcement team here. Mayor Shaw, City Council, thank you for recognizing this great team for the city. They do a great job. They have a very hard job, and they're dedicated. They're really good at what they do. They like to learn and grow in their position, and overall they have passion, passion for what they do, and passion for the community. They want to make sure things are getting better and the city's doing well. It's a very tough job, so recognition is very nice because in code enforcement, you really don't get recognized that often. If anything, it's the opposite. You know, you get recognized in a bad way. So this is great to see. So I really appreciate the city recognizing this great team. Ashley, Lauren, and Ralph, good job.
We're going to move on to item 2, which is public comments. At this time, public comments will be heard for items not on the agenda. I do have public speaker cards submitted for public comment. If you'd like to submit a comment, please fill out a blue speaker card located in the lobby and submit it to the city clerk. The time limit to speak is 3 minutes. The time limit is monitored by the timer located in front of the mayor's seat. When 1 minute remains on the timer, it will beep once as a reminder to complete comments before your time expires. Please refrain from any applaud, cheering, booing, or other outbursts so that everyone may have the opportunity to be heard. Note that due to provisions of state law, the council may not engage in dialogue regarding comments. However, staff may be directed to respond to persons making public comments. So I do have a handful of speaker cards. I'm going to start with Lou Flores.
And there were copies for the,
Yes.
so this is basically just reading this here, so just as a thing. Thank you. September 4th, sewage spills out of storm drain for 2 hours into Marsh Creek near East Cypress overpass while Bud Chaddock is working with UC Davis students. It looks and smells like excrement. They quickly pull out equipment and Bud takes video and photos. September 6th, Marsh Creek cleanup at East Cypress, Bud Chaddock, Paul Seeger, and Lou Flores. It still smells like a toilet. We make sure to use rubber gloves. Signs at Railroad Bridge state the property is cleaned on a regular basis by BNSF Railway. Note, since then, the signs have been torn down. September 15th, Lou Flores speaks with Iron House Sanitary District staff, connects staff person with Bud. Bud has phone conversation with the staff person. Storm drains and sewage system are not connected, is what they say. September 19th, 4 dead beavers seen in Marsh Creek near Creekside Park. Bud Chaddock takes photos. Bud contacts Fish and Wildlife. September 19th, Bud and Lou meet with Evan Gorman of Oakley Planning Department. September 19th, Bud and Lou meet with Kevin Rahani of Oakley Public Works Department. September 20th, East Bay Regional Parks, Save Mount Diablo Marsh Creek cleanup. The staging area is at East Cypress, parking lot at Marsh Creek. September 22nd, Bud and Lou meet with Connor Robles, the press reporter at Marsh Creek. September 26th, we meet with Sergeant Stephen Soares, Oakley PD SST unit at East Cypress parking lot. September 26th, meeting with East Bay Regional Parks Big Break staff. They state that the parking lot at East Cypress is an East Bay Regional Parks property. September 30th, Marsh Creek Watershed Council meeting. Bud Chaddock and Lou Flores attend. Information is shared about beaver deaths, sewage spill, and state of health of Lower Marsh Creek. October 2nd, David Sondergeld, Marsh Creek Watershed Council Chair, connects with the press. October 2nd, David Sondergeld submits work request at CCC Public Works regarding sewage spill. October 4th, a fish kill is posted on Nextdoor. October 5th at 8:30 a.m., Bud Chaddock and Lou Flores visit the site of fish kill at Creekside Park in Laurel. Photos are taken, water samples are taken. October 6th, Lou Flores submits work request to CCC Public Works regarding fish kill. October 7th, Paul Seeger submits email to numerous agencies regarding fish kill and health of Marsh Creek. October 9th, Bud speaks with CCC Public Works. October 9th, an Oakley resident sees a never before seen sign. Fish Wildlife sign says, you can help protect your wildlife, report poaching, polluting. They have a phone number. October 12th, Mayor Shannon Shaw works with Bud Chaddock and Paul Seeger in cleanup of Marsh Creek at East Cypress And October 13th, an abandoned car that has been in the East Cypress parking lot for approximately 5 weeks is towed away. And then, thank you.
Thank you. All right, our next speaker is Bud Chaddick.
Yes, thank you, council, for having us up here. Lou pretty much stated everything. I'm just going over a few other things. There was several hundreds of fish, maybe 1,000. There's a lot of stuff underneath weeds and whatnot that we saw that died. The only thing one gentleman from UC Davis told me says he can't explain why their eyes were bulging. So that is of concern to us, because if I have someone from there telling me that, it's kind of worrisome. It's basically like getting the bends backwards. If your sun coming up from depths too fast, well, it's only 3 feet deep. So that didn't really make a lot of sense. Also, the beaver deaths were concerning. It took a long time to get a hold of Fish and Wildlife. I did. I meant one of the main Fish and Wildlife guys made it a point to meet me there from Fairfield. He handles our division. Talked to him. He basically said, you have a problem. And he says, a Fish and Wildlife guy came on his day off, mind you, day off. Came down, took fish samples and water samples. And, it takes several days. Right now they're doing a lot of brain wasting disease in deers and doing autopsies that way. So they haven't found any. That's good. But anyways, that's something that's been going on there. Again, thank you, Mayor Shaw, for coming down and seeing some of what was there and getting that car out. It's kind of nice seeing that thing out of there. The other thing is, we've been doing various cleanups, like Lou said, to do things. We've also been connecting with different people that want to connect, and they're going to try to keep us informed. It's hard. It's been like a very uphill battle with, to me, it feels like too many agencies that need to coexist rather than point the other way. Sometimes it feels like it, not that they are, but I mean, it just feels like it. I just get a little bit frustrated at that point, but it seems like we've had some positive things come out of it. And there are some people that have taken note, pictures. I've got a few people now that walk the creek every day, reporting things to me on a regular basis. So I look at that as a community service and pride thing. I think that is a good thing. I think that needs to be like, take pride in it. In other words, maybe a quarter-mile block of it by that part of the neighborhood might be something they can look into, doing down the line. And I look at it as a great resource. We found those hitch in there. They got, I believe, $2 million for the same fish and restoration at Clear Lake. And we found hitch in Marsh Creek that are trying to spawn. So it's an interesting concept, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Don Morrow.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. My name is Dawn Morrow, and I'm here to comment on the Bridgehead Industrial Planned Unit development. I do live in the adjacent neighborhood. The project is in District 1, and I live in District 4, which is basically across the street. First, let me say I support Oakley's efforts to attract new jobs and tax revenue here at home. And still, I just want to ensure that future development also protects our health and our quality of life. So I'm here tonight to ask that any approval for this project and any other light industrial projects be conditioned on a comprehensive and enforceable noise ordinance. This proposed industrial park includes data centers as an approved use in its description. Projects such as data centers, logistics yards, and manufacturing sites can generate continuous mechanical noise from cooling systems, backup power, and heavy equipment. As far as I know, our city's existing noise ordinance with a 55 decibel daytime and 45 decibel nighttime limit was designed for traditional light industrial uses at the most, not for modern facilities that operate 24 hours a day. I respectfully urge the city to require independent acoustical studies for all such projects, adopt stricter nighttime limits near residential areas, and mandate appropriate mitigation such as sound walls, enclosures, and limits on generator testing, regardless of whether it includes data center. This ordinance will protect our residents while giving developers the certainty they need to design facilities that are good neighbors. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. And that was my last public comment card for non-agenda items.
Mayor, I'm sorry to
Oh,
interrupt you. We've been informed that we have no sound on our live stream. So is it possible to take a 5-minute break while we reboot the system?
I thought I saw your button pushed. Yes.
Thank you.
I guess we'll announce we're going on a break, even though they can't hear us in TV land. right, we ready? All right, we are back. And we just finished up public comments on non-agenda items, so we are going to move on to item 3, which is council member comments. Please remember that council members also will have 3 minutes to speak, which will be regulated by the timer. Are any council members? Councilmember Fuller?
Yes. A few weeks ago, we received an email from a person, an adult, but I would say a young adult, or at least young for me, saying that she wanted dispensation so she could go to a event where she felt safe. The situation was, as she said, she was disabled, and that in the norm, she did not feel safe or welcome or a part of a recreational group at her age group, so that she wanted to go to a different age group. That disturbed me greatly, and I see it as a failure on our part, my part, for not making sure that everyone is welcome into our recreation, that disabled people should be able to walk in and say, I would like to use your recreation program. What is available? If they select the program, it is up to us to make sure the person is welcomed, is accommodated, is felt safe in the environment, and can interact with their peers, that they shouldn't have to go away into somebody else in another age group, that is our responsibility. That is what we need to do as a community, that everyone is welcome and shouldn't have to write to the council members saying, well, please, can't I do this because I don't have any other program. We do have that program on our email on file, and I am hoping that the Recreation Department does contact the individual and see what we can do to bring her in with her own group, with her own age group, and facilitate her recreation in that area.
Councilmember Williams?
I just have to respond to that because that is my constituent, and I advocated and argued regarding them being able to come here.
I don't think we can discuss it because it's not agendized, so if you have another council comment, we can take that.
Great. I would just like to say that our recreation department does do a great job of reaching out and making sure that people have programs that they want to do, and some people just choose to participate in different programs.
Thank you. All right, seeing no others, we will close the council member comments and we will move to the consent calendar. I don't have any online comments or submitted speaker cards for the consent calendar. Are there any items that council would like to pull for discussion?
4.1 and 4.6.
4.7.
I move the remainder.
Second.
I have a motion in 2 seconds. All those in favor to approve the consent calendar minus 4.1, 4.6, and 4.7. Say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. 4.1, Councilmember Fuller.
Yes, again, the answer is I do not see the minutes as complete as they should be, so I have habitually voted no when they appear in this manner, and will continue to do so.
Councilmember Meadows.
I'd like to point out Resolution 48-22 that was passed on May 10th of 2022. Be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Oakley that minutes for this meeting, for its meetings, are hereby adopted as action minutes. Should meeting video and audio be unavailable for any meeting, lengthy summary minutes shall be provided, and meeting video and audio shall be made available on YouTube, which offers closed captioning and a transcript for meeting video and audio. That was passed on May 10th, 2022 on a 5-0 vote. I move approval of 4.1.
I'll second.
All right, I have a motion and a second for item 4.1. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Passes 4-1. Item 4.6, Councilmember Fuller.
I need to recuse myself from this item. I'm living in close proximity to it.
All right, we will,
I move approval of 4.6.
Second.
all right, I have a motion and a second to approve item 4.6. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item passes 4-0 with Councilmember Fuller recusing himself. 4.7, Councilmember Williams.
So I'm pulling this item just for context for people. So for anybody who's not reading the agenda item, this is talking about our curb, gutter, and sidewalk repair and reconstruction project. And I know that I have, especially recently, been getting a lot of questions about Oakley's 50% responsibility that homeowners pay for 50% of a sidewalk that's damaged. And so I was just hoping that staff could provide context, potentially what our neighboring, how that program, what that program is, how it differs from our neighbors, if it does.
Yeah, so it's a pretty generous program. Only about 6 communities in the county, including us, offer the program. You know, the reality is the law requires the sidewalk to be maintained by the homeowner. We have a program where if there is damaged sidewalk, the homeowner can submit to us through this program, and it would allow us to cover half of the improvements. So it's a generous program. It allows sidewalks to get fixed in front of residential homes, and it removes some of the burden off of the homeowner.
So can I ask one more follow-up question? What would happen if the homeowner said, I don't want to repair it? Would that trigger code enforcement and stuff like that?
It would, yes.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate it. With that, I'll move approval.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second for item 4.7. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. We are going to move on to public hearings. Item 5.1, housing element rezone, general plan amendments and rezoning. Adoption of a resolution approving general plan amendment and introduction of ordinance approving rezones to implement policy action 1.1 of the City of Oakley Housing Element 2023 through 2031. Ken Strelo, Community Development Director.
I have to recuse myself. At the last meeting, we discussed this item. Councilmember Fuller added one of my properties to the list regarding the AHO, so I will recuse myself.
All right, we'll begin once you're secluded.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Mr. Vice Mayor, members of the City Council. Thank you for having me tonight. We'll be going over the housing element rezone, including a general plan amendment and rezoning application. And this is a city-initiated application to implement policy action 1.1 of the adopted and certified City of Oakley housing element. There's a few acronyms and abbreviations. Just wanted to provide a quick summary of those. GPA is General Plan Amendment, RZ Rezone. You'll see RHNA pronounced as RENA, and that's the Regional Housing Needs Allocation. HCD is the State Department of Housing and Community Development. AHO, Affordable Housing Overlay District, and a couple of the, one land use regulation or designation and one zoning district, RMF or Residential Multiple Family, and M-30 district. The general plan amendment portion of this application includes 3 separate actions. The first one is to create the RMF land use designation and add it to the general plan. This is essential for creating a land use designation that allows for the density required by the HCD for the City of Oakley to accommodate affordable units. The second one is approval of the general plan land use designation on 7 identified parcels that are currently designated either residential high or residential medium, and the request would be to amend the land use designation to RMF. And finally, the last one is approval of an amendment to the general plan land use designation on 1 parcel that currently has a split designation of residential high with commercial on a corner of the parcel along Empire and Neroli, and that would be to amend that one to all commercial. For the rezoning portion, there are 4 actions, somewhat similar to the general plan amendment. The first one would be to amend the existing multiple family residential district portion of the zoning ordinance to add the M30 zone, or the M30 district. And again, that would be text that's required to be added in order to create a zoning district that would accommodate the needs of policy action 1.1 of the housing element. The second action would be an approval to rezone 7 parcels that are currently zoned M9 and or M12 multiple family district to the M30 district that is being proposed. The third would be to approve a rezone of 1 parcel, and this is the same parcel that was singled out for the general plan amendment, from a planned unit development district, abbreviated as P1, to the general commercial district, C district. And finally, the approval of a rezone of 9 commercially designated parcels to have the affordable housing overlay district added to them. The housing element was certified by HCD back in May of 2023, and the rezoning of these adequate sites, as far as we understand, is required to be done by January 31st of next year. So the housing element, just a little bit of background, it's one of the 7 mandatory elements of the general plan. State law requires that we update it every 8 years. 2023 was the last time ours was updated. And RHNA, R-H-N-A, is a state mandated process that determines the total number of units that a city must plan for over the 8-year cycle of the housing element. The purposes of tonight's meeting is focused on planning for affordable units. The AHO is something, or the Affordable Housing Overlay District is something the city of Oakley has had in place for quite some time. It has been used with for previous developments such as CBH and the property over on Elm Lane. And unfortunately, when we did our housing element, there was a court case that came out just before HCD certified it that said there were some questions on how AHOs were implemented. HCD therefore was not willing to certify what the city council had adopted. We came back to the council with the option to do a rezone in the event the AHO would not be allowed. The council adopted that amendment, and HCD happily certified the housing element, so we were able to get it done in time before May 31st. This is just a quick summary of the total number of affordable units we're looking to do. The 1,058 units on top is total units. That includes all income levels. 440 units are slated for the affordable income levels, and that's for this entire 8-year cycle. And you'll see in the table low income, and then moving from that to the left, very low income and extremely low income. Extremely low income is actually half of the very low income, or just under half of the very low income. So very low income would typically, it would show those 2 numbers combined, and then we would take approximately half for the extremely low. The method that we use to calculate what we call RHNA capacity. So for the sites that would be rezoned to M30 or have the AHO placed on them, the method of calculating how many affordable units that site could have, or what we can tell HCD we have accommodated for, is equal to the acreage, 24 units per acre. And that 24 units is something that HCD has given us guidance on based on what we've shown can be developed in the city of Oakley in the past. There are reductions built in. For instance, if a site is non-vacant, let's say it has an existing single-family home on a 1-acre lot or larger, there would be a 25% reduction in that capacity. Or if the site were commercial, which will be the case for all of the AHO unit zones, all of the AHO overlay, it would have an additional 25%, and those are separate. So one that has both would just have a 50% reduction. The alternative rezone solution, I don't really need to go over this slide too much, but I do want to point out that for the AHO, it can only be used for up to half of the affordable unit capacity. So we have 440. The AHO can only be used for up to 220 of the units. Everything else would have to be done through the rezone. On September 2nd, the Planning Commission held a public hearing and made an official recommendation through a resolution to the City Council. The project that was presented to the Planning Commission was what was directed to city staff during the June 10th City Council work session that we held. The Planning Commission unanimously voted, recommending the City Council approve the project as proposed in front of you tonight. And now I'll go over a list of the sites that are being proposed for the M30 district. Before I go to the first slide, I just want to point out there's some information on the left. I will try to summarize as best I can what's in there. I don't want to go over every single detail, but please, if there's any questions, let me know. So the first sites 1 through 4, you see 2 red kind of sites on there. It's the one on the right, and there are 4 sites there. These are proposed, and the Planning Commission recommended to rezone these to M30. The total number of RENA units that would be allocated here could be up to 126 units. These are currently residentially designated and zoned. Site 5, oh, I'm sorry, let me point out. These are on Cypress Road, just south of Cypress Grove and just east of the Cypress Storage Facility. Site 5 is on Sellers Avenue, on the west side of Sellers Avenue, south of Cypress Road, a couple of parcels or maybe 2 parcels down from the intersection. Again, this is another residentially designated and zoned site. This one is also recommended to be rezoned to M30, and it could accommodate up to 35 affordable units based on the 24 units per acre and the reduced capacity. Site 14 is directly next to Site 5. And this one, similar zoning and designation. This site could accommodate up to 50 affordable units after the reduction. Site 15 is on the northeast corner of Rose Avenue and Cypress Road. This one would be recommended to be rezoned to M30, and it could accommodate up to 56 affordable units. And now I'll go into the sites. I want to make sure I didn't miss one there. Yeah. I want to go into the sites proposed for the AHO district. Again, all of these sites are commercially designated. Sites 6 and 7, same image that you saw on the first site slide. These are over on the left. These are on the corner of Main Street and Cypress on the northwest corner. Commercially designated. And with the AHO, they could accommodate, there's 2 sites. There's a little tiny sliver on the corner. They could accommodate up to 14 RENA affordable units. Site 11, this is across from Diamond Hills Sports Complex. It's on the southwest corner of Neroli and Empire. And this one is the most unique site. This is the one where during the entitlement summary, we talked about 1 parcel designated and 1 parcel rezoned from P1. This is the site. The direction at the council work session was, rather than try to do the M30 on this site, instead redesignate it to commercial and place the affordable housing overlay district on it. So that was what was presented to the Planning Commission. That is the recommendation they have provided to the council. So this one with the AHO, after all of the other land use entitlements, could accommodate up to 82 units. Sites 12 and 13 are on the south side of Main Street where Rose Avenue and Main Street intersect. And between these 2 parcels, they would also have the AHO. They're currently designated commercial downtown. They're in the downtown specific plan, and they could accommodate a total of 25 affordable units. Sites 16 and 17 are just north of Laurel Ridge Church. I'm not even going to try to name that road because I'm not sure what it's called. I've seen it called different things. But Neroli is on the west side of it there. And when combined, those 2 sites could accommodate up to 18 units. Sites 18 and 19 are another 2 sites that were added during the work session. Those last 2 sites were as well. And these are just south of the United States Post Office on Del Antico and 7th Street. And they're on either side of 7th Street, although the street doesn't go all the way down there, but These two sites are also proposed to have the Affordable Housing Overlay District placed on them, and combined, they could accommodate up to 51 units, affordable units. That concludes all of the M30 and affordable housing overlay sites. Now for a short analysis. So we are required to plan for, not build, not required to be built, but to plan for, to zone for 440 lower income RHNA units. As proposed, as I've just showed you through all of these sites, we could accommodate up to 457 units. That results in a capacity buffer of 17 affordable units. The buffer could potentially ease the burden. If there was a case where one of these sites were developed, let's say it could accommodate, just as an example, 20 affordable units and someone came and built it, we can't require them to build 20 affordable units. Let's say they build 10 affordable units, or none even. We would have to calculate that into what we currently have remaining as far as acreage and how many units that capacity is. If ever we fall under a point where the remaining capacity in the city plus what was ever built on any given site is under 440, we would need to rezone or redesignate additional properties to get back up to that 440 units, and we would have 180 days to do that. That could include general plan amendments and rezonings and all other entitlements. But doing all of these things would satisfy completion of policy action 1.1. There's been some other steps along the way, zoning text amendments, AHO amendments, and so forth. As far as the general plan amendments go, these are just a few of the findings here. As stated earlier, the housing element is a part of the general plan, so implementing the housing element is consistent with the general plan, and it further implements the housing element itself. And it would also bring the housing element into compliance with HCD's guidance for our RHNA unit capacity. As far as the rezoning, similar findings here. Each of the rezonings is required to implement policy action 1.1 in the housing element. The M30 district is required to accommodate the type of development needed to achieve the affordable units. And rezoning the sites to M30 and or placing the AHO, or placing the AHO on specific sites will allow us with a 440 unit capacity plus an additional buffer of 17 units. And that's required, the 440 required by the housing element. And again, since the housing element's an adopted element of the general plan, any actions taken to implement the housing element are consistent with the general plan. This is also an important part of this exercise, AFFH, or Affirmatively Furthering Fair Housing. And essentially, to summarize what this is HCD does not want to see cities lump affordable housing on the outskirts of town or in areas of low resources. They want, and for good reason, they want affordable housing sites to be in areas where there are resources available to the future tenants of those areas, that they are able to share other resources that other citizens and residents of the city may have. The staff report includes a few more details on all of this, but essentially the sites in this area have been spread out throughout the city. The city of Oakley is recognized as having medium and low resource areas. They're spread out in both of those resource areas, and amongst the areas in the city, they're in areas of all income levels. So they're fairly well spread out. The important thing that we looked at here is we wanted all of the sites to have decent access to either transit, grocery, and or schools and jobs. And we feel like we've accomplished that with the way that these sites were chosen, and we went over in the work session as well. And then, of course, I kind of say this, but the sites are distributed in various census tracts of lower, medium, and highest income levels. So the access to opportunity that AFFH requires is achieved through the way that the sites were selected here. California Environmental Quality Act, or CEQA, as some may call it, recently had some amendments done, and one of those amendments was to make sure that housing elements would not be bogged down by CEQA. And so any implementation of an action or policy in a housing element is found to be exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act. So implementation of policy action 1.1 would be exempt from any further environmental study under the California Environmental Quality Act. And finally, staff's recommendation is that we recommend the city council adopt the proposed resolution, which would approve the general plan amendment, which includes those 3 bullet points I went over at the beginning of the slide, as well as introducing the proposed ordinance for the rezoning, which would include the 4 bullet points I went over for the rezoning portion of the slide. And all of this would implement the remaining portions of Policy Action 1.1, thereby bringing the housing element into compliance with HCD's guidance. And also, we would request that the City Council find the action exempt from CEQA. Thank you, and that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer questions or go back to any slides if necessary.
Any clarifying questions of staff? Councilmember Fuller?
Yes, would you bring up the map again on 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5? I believe they're pretty much together from what I...
1 through 4
1
are,
through
are
4.
grouped together, and 5 is over on Sellers.
Okay. Well, and what I'm counting in that small area is 161 affordable units. In other words, over 25% of where we want to be. I'm curious why we've chosen to put so many in such a small area.
I can tell you that if you look in your staff report, there are different types of sites. There's existing AHO sites and candidate AHO sites, and these were from the certified housing element. So sites 1 through 4 and sites 5, 14 was not. Those 2 sites, 6 and 7, I think the first 12 sites or so, were all existing AHO sites. So they were already adopted with the AHO in them. However, when HCD said AHO can only be used on commercial properties, we had to pivot and propose that the existing AHO sites instead receive the M30 zone. So these are sites 1 through 5 are all existing AHO sites that would have already had the AHO. However, since they're residentially designated, they're now being proposed for the M30. As to why there's that many, it's simply just a factor of the acreage and the 24 dwelling units per acre, and then whether or not there's any capacity reduction. All of the proposed AHO sites have an automatic 25% reduction here. So what you'll see is the M30 sites that are vacant, they'll have the full 24 unit capacity. So you may see a capacity that's higher. That doesn't limit what can be built. Someone could build 100% affordable, they could build 2% affordable, they can build whatever, but their base density would start at 30 units per acre should they choose to build on these sites.
Well, that begs the question with me, are they already rezoned, or are we taking action now to rezone them? Which is it?
Yeah, you're being asked tonight to redesignate all of the sites proposed for M30 to RMF, residential multifamily designation in the general plan, and then to do a rezoning to place the M30 district on those sites. And for all of the commercial sites that are identified, the City Council is being asked to place the affordable housing overlay on those, with the addition of also doing a general plan land use designation on the Empire Avenue and Neroli Road site to make that completely commercial first.
Another question, could you show the ones on Laurel, 2400 block of Laurel? So, all right, I just to make sure, I'm seeing Live Oak, Laurel, all right, right? Okay, the treatment facility is the blue, right? Water treatment facility.
Treatment facility would be off the screen to the lower right.
What is the blue in that?
Those are the sites, the proposed parcels. And yeah, those are the proposed parcels. There are 2 parcels just next to Laurel Ridge Church.
And how many units can go in there? 18, right?
After the reduction capacities, because it's commercial and they're non-vacant, it would be 18. More units can go into it. That's the credit we give for RENA capacity.
Okay, I'm not totally opposed, but I'm seeing if it, out along Cypress, if we're going to put 161 units or a number of units along Cypress, along that from Main Street over to whatever it is, Van Pelt, is what it kind of looks like. It's a number, and there are already affordable units, or what I perceive as affordable units, south of the middle school. So that area is already taking.
Councilmember Fuller, we're just doing questions right now. We need to open the public
Yeah,
hearing
I
before.
do have a question.
Okay, let's,
So, yes, so why are we putting so many units? We already have units there, then we're gonna put 161 more? Is that?
So I'll go through this real quick. These sites were all already in the housing element as existing AHO sites. This one was already in the housing element as an existing AHO site. This one was a candidate AHO site. This one was added. This one was an existing AHO site. This one was a candidate AHO site. I believe these were candidate AHO sites. These were added at the work session by the council, and these were added by the council during the work session. So all except for these last two slides were already in the housing element. So all we're doing is we're asking the council to take the official actions for the land use entitlements to implement what we need to implement.
Well, remember I voted no, but I have another question. Along Cypress, we have a number of undeveloped land, TI most notably, that has not come in and done any building in there. I don't know what's planned, but are we ever planning to see if they can absorb some of it, or are we going to put more affordable housing in there, or are we going to allow that we have fairly large amount in one area that we can expand other areas? How are we going to handle that when they come in?
So that area out there, we would find that as a low resource area right now. There's no commercial development, there's no public transportation, there is one school. In the future, our housing element will be back up for amendment in 2031, I believe. Then at that time, if there's development out there and those things, it could potentially be considered.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Williams?
So you said a couple important things. You talked about how we can't force a developer to build these units, right? So you said if something's zoned it has the AHA overlay and it's zoned for 10 units, they can choose to build one at affordable and the rest at market rate, or is that only for the multifamily one?
The way the AHO and the M30 district work, there's a density range with a minimum density of 20 units per acre and a maximum density of 30 units per acre. That is something that HCD has required us to do in order to make it feasible for developers to build affordable units. We stop short of having a certain percentage of required affordability, right? So somebody could theoretically come in and build 30 units to the acre, 0 affordable units, and they could get that 30 units per acre. Or they could do some affordable units and then start to receive density bonuses based on that affordability, where they could exceed 30 units per acre. So again, the capacity, I don't want the capacity that I'm showing on these slides to be confused with how many units will be built there. It's the equation that we use to show HCD what we are planning for. And yes, you're correct. We would not have to tell a developer, you have to build this many units.
And same thing, we can't dictate that we want commercial underneath, right? For the ones that have that 25% reduction, we can't say it's got to be a mixed use, right? We can't dictate that in this.
Absolutely correct. For the ones that are commercial, as an example, a developer could come in and say, that's great that you have this affordable housing overlay district on there. However, I want to go ahead and build commercial, and we would process that application.
Okay, so the danger that we potentially run into is when a developer comes in and they say, great, that you have this zoned, but that would then, if they don't make it affordable, that would then give us credit in the above moderate, basically, right? Well, depending on obviously where they fall in, right? So potentially it could have, but it wouldn't necessarily get us to those lower ends that we need for the RENA. Okay.
That's
Okay.
correct.
Thank you.
All right, seeing no other questions, I am going to open the public hearing. I do not have any speaker cards submitted at this moment. I don't see anyone rushing up to turn one in, so I will close the public hearing and bring it back to council for deliberation. Anyone have any additional comments? Councilmember Fuller?
Yes, I have voted no on this. However, we've added new areas, most notably south of the post office. I believe there's a lot of land we have coming in, and I appreciate that. That seems to be in there in the mix. I am concerned about that Main and East Cypress as you move out towards Sellers on the south side. South of the middle school, there are a number of units in there. I don't know how many, but I think they're 3 digits, as I remember, because I walked the whole complex. And now we're putting in 161 more units, or at least proposing 161 units. And I'm getting this sinking feeling in my stomach that, yeah, we're just going to keep, that's a nice area because nobody's out there. And if we put them on the south side of there, we'll have them all isolated and all in one group. And I do not like that type of affordable housing. I have been a product of Jordan Downs, Nickerson Gardens, Imperial Courts, and other projects in the city of LA. I was in those, the first 3 during the riots, and I was signed to those as a footbeat prior to the riots in 1992. And I'm going to just say it, and I've said it again, it's an inhumane way of providing affordable housing to people that have difficulty making their allocation for residency. That was obviously built in the 50s to go down there in the land of where Watts Ranch was. Cheap land, and they built them all together, and they put everybody in there, and then it went, do not bother us. We don't want to hear from you, and that's about the way it was treated. Highly discriminatory, highly inflammatory. I taught in the high school just south of the Imperial Courts, and I had students that lived there, one very promising student, a young lady, but we had to shut down the high school by 4:30 at night because she and others that were living in the courts could not go down to the courts at even twilight. And they went inside. It was called, night, just sundown time living. They went and lived in those courts at night, feared, and then they came out again when the sun came out and walked over to the school. That's what life is like. I handled 1 murder within, again, Jordan Downs. I believe it was Jordan or Imperial Courts. But the woman was 8.5 months pregnant. Her husband had gone out to share a few drinks with his buddies and got home about 10 or 11. And as he opened the front door, they shot him numerous times. He died right there, right in front of her, and they ran off laughing. So when you create that type of atmosphere, when you create that type of program, when you say, okay, this is good, so we'll just shove them over here, it doesn't work. And it's dangerous, and bottom line is inhumane. So that's the one thing that I am very concerned about, is that we have 161 units there, I don't know, and we already have units over there. I am happy about the being south of the post office, but as long as I'm sitting up here, I'm going to be very watchful of what's going on over there and what we may be creating. That's all.
Before I move on, I lived in affordable housing complexes and I never rioted. And calling them the projects is actually highly defamatory. These days, I do manage affordable housing, so I wanted to clarify that. I was a promising young student that lived in a complex of over 300, and look at me now. So it doesn't necessarily mean that that's what it will become. Just felt the need to say that. Councilmember Williams?
Stole it right out of my mouth, too. I also lived in a 600-unit apartment complex, and we all managed to get along just fine. But I would like to say, I'd like to use this time to say, this is my plea to everybody in the audience. We need affordable housing here, and unfortunately, our hands are really tied with this. We just heard that nobody is forced to build affordable housing, so we're going to give away all this land, and people still might not be able to afford it. So it's my plea that when our assembly and our senators are voting on things that are changing density and they're exempting things from CEQA and they're making all these changes that are meant to spur building, so far it hasn't worked in the 30 years. It hasn't spurred affordable building. It hasn't worked. We've got thousands of housing bills and we still are in a deficit. So my plea is to everybody here in this audience that when your senators, when your assembly are voting, if they're stripping out all of the affordable pieces of it, there's literally no point in doing it. All it's doing is enabling developers to build, and this is not just a supply and demand issue, right? I mean, if it was, we would have all the housing that we need. So that's just my plea. I don't love that there's no component of this that really forces the hand of anybody to be affordable. But I also feel like we don't have the backing to fight this at a state level, right? So I think we clearly have to approve this, and I think staff has made a good job at trying to make the best of it. I just really encourage people to be asking for affordable elements. And I do want to remind everybody that currently today, Oakley is still 91% single-family homes. We need varied products. There's nothing wrong with condos. There's nothing wrong with smaller homes or apartments. So I think to prejudice a whole group of people who they may want that to be their first home, or they may need that to be their first home, I think we should just be careful of that kind of divisive language.
Vice Mayor Henderson?
And kind of going along with what Councilmember Williams just said is, this is a plan. This is something showed out there. It's designating some areas. It's not saying it is going to be built there. It's us complying with state law so we can continue to do things. Because if we're not in compliance, then there's builder remedies, and then we can have things put in places where we have no control of. So again, this is not saying that affordable housing is going in all these locations. It's saying that we have designated some areas within the city to do it. And, the state has really got our hands tied that we have no choice other than to continue to comply and have a plan in place.
And I want to compliment the staff for the job that you guys have done to find these lots. I know we had a long work session about it, and you've done a great job with the mandates that the state have forced on us. My question that I want the residents to understand, I want to ask is, if we do not do this rezone, what happens to our adopted housing element?
It's a great question, and Vice Mayor Henderson touched on this. The builder's remedy. It's a word that's been thrown around. It's been around a long time. It's only recently kind of been implemented, to the best of our knowledge, in any sort of meaningful way. Essentially, if our housing element is found to be out of compliance at any time, and right now we're in a grace period to get this rezone done, then if it's found to be out of compliance by HCD, it could open us up to what's called builder's remedy applications. And essentially what those are applications by usually housing developers where they can propose housing on any property regardless of the underlying general plan or zoning. I'm sure some things still apply, such as, open space, sensitive habitat. But basically, any site that can be developed on can receive an application that we must process in a certain amount of time for housing. And that could really run havoc on how the general plan is laid out and everything else that the council's worked so hard to build.
And by not doing this multifamily rezone and then having other commercial designated with the affordable housing overlay, it would put us out of compliance if we don't meet that by that certain date.
Yeah, we need to accommodate the 440 units. That's it, cut and dry.
And so the way we have it right now, if we do nothing, leave it as is, we'll be out of compliance by our deadline, and then we're open up to builder's remedy. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Well, I don't love having to do, I don't love the state telling us what we have to do. But I also do agree that all types of housing is needed in every city. And if cities across the state were doing their part, we wouldn't have the state telling us what to do. I mean, it's kind of like a chicken or egg type of situation. But that being said, I will get off my high horse and ask the council if anyone would like to make a motion and we can do this all in one. Director Strelo, sorry.
I'd recommend two motions, one to adopt the resolution and one to waive the first reading and introduce the ordinance.
All right, thank you.
You know me, I love to begrudgingly make motions, so I will make both of those motions. Do I need to say it for the record, or? I want to follow the staff recommendation for two motions.
The motion first for the resolution,
Okay.
adopt that, and then do a motion
Okay,
second
great.
for the ordinance.
Okay, so I will do the first motion for the resolution.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 4-0 with Councilmember Meadows recusing himself. And then we have the second part.
I will also make the motion to waive the reading.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to waive the reading. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 4-0 with Councilmember Meadows recusing himself. So we will invite Councilmember Meadows back into the room and continue on with our meeting. Welcome back. All right, at this time, we're going to move into our regular calendar, and we are going to start with item 6.1, which is the Strategic Plan 27 Plus update. Joshua McMurray, City Manager.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Mr. Vice Mayor, members of the City Council, and members of the public. This item is a update on our Strategic Plan 27 Plus. This plan was adopted in April of 2022. It contains 188 goals and objectives, so a very lofty plan, and the plan period was at least 5 years, and we're well in the middle of that, moving on towards the end of life of the plan. We've made significant progress on the 188 items. Some of those are ongoing, won't be completed because those are things that we should be doing, but we've made significant progress in capital work, most notably along Laurel Road, East Cypress Road. We've also made significant progress with the library, and we've made significant progress on the emergency management front, in addition to item 6.2 that's on the agenda tonight right after this one, with our comprehensive emergency operations plan. So with that, that is our update. I'm happy to answer any questions. We do have the dashboard attached to the staff report, and if approved, we will update that on the city's website. Thank you.
Any questions for staff? Councilmember Williams?
I really love this dashboard. Can you just give us an idea of, since the last time we got this dashboard, if you have like a number of how many things sort of moved or shifted, just so that people can, I know no one's going to track the red lines, but do you have just a general idea? I don't need exact specifics.
We completed one, we started another one, and that doesn't sound impressive, but I think what's important to note for the public's benefit is the council has authorized us to do quite a few large projects that are multi-year projects, and to the city council's credit, you've allowed staff to work on those projects without necessarily burdening us with too many more items to work on. So we're actively working through those. We don't have a large team here, but we have a very motivated team, and they are actively working through the items in the plan. So we are continuing to make progress. I have a feeling the next two updates next year, we're going to see a lot more items checked off.
Well, let's not sell yourself short, right? You just said there was 188 items, I believe, and I think when I go through, there's, of those 188, only 5, I think, are in the future or not yet begun. So, I mean, I think that's pretty phenomenal. I don't know where we were on previous strategic plans, just because I think the dashboard was a newish addition, but I mean, don't sell yourself short.
I was going to comment on that same 5, so. All right, seeing no other questions or any public comments on this item? Seeing none, I will look to the council for a motion.
I'll move.
Second.
Are we moving acceptance, or is that what we're moving? I mean, you made a report, but we're not really approving that.
We are accepting the strategic plan update. So I have a motion and a second to accept the update. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. All right, item 6.2, adopt a resolution adopting the City of Oakley Comprehensive Emergency Management Plan and rescinding resolution number 126-05. Danielle Navarro, Assistant City Manager.
Good evening, Mayor Shaw, Vice Mayor Henderson, and council members. State and federal mandates require all government agencies to develop a plan for dealing with emergencies such as floods and earthquakes, civil disturbances, fires, etc. These plans must be based in the Standardized Emergency Management System, also called SEMS, and are the framework for staff to respond to emergencies swiftly and decisively within the community and the broader region. The city adopted an interim emergency operations plan back in 2005, which at the time mirrored the plan of the county and surrounding communities. And the plan requires regular review and updating, and then requires final review by the city's disaster council before it comes before the city council. The city council reviewed an update to the plan in 2018 and provided comments, but that updated plan was never brought back to the council for adoption. In February 2023, the city conducted an assessment of the city's emergency management program, which included a review of that 2018 draft emergency operations plan, and that assessment was presented to the sitting council at that time. With the election of an entirely new council since 2018 and changes in staffing and legislative changes since that draft plan was introduced, staff has drafted a new comprehensive emergency management plan, which we're calling the CEMP, which is an expanded document that provides strategic guidance to assist the council and assist city staff in the prevention of, preparation for, mitigation of, response to, and recovery from natural, civil, and technological disasters. And at this point, I'd like to reintroduce Christopher Godley from Aegis Emergency Management, who the city contracted with to review this draft CEMP. He's the same consultant who assisted staff with the 2023 assessment of the emergency management program, which is why I said reintroduce. And Chris's presentation will provide more detailed information on the comprehensive emergency management plan. We will both be available for questions after the presentation, and then staff recommends that the city council open public comment and have discussion and then adopt the resolution. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of the council. Again, Chris Godley with Aegis Emergency Management. Briefly, and it will be briefly, to highlight the why are we proceeding with this development for the city of Oakley? The first is because things are getting a little busier in terms of challenging local government relative to emergencies. We're seeing some increased frequency of events, Complexity of these events is also increasing, especially with the advent of technology, and even some of the severity that we're seeing in these disasters, most notably wildfire here in California, is all increasing. Also, public expectations for government services in response to these disasters is also increasing. So to meet those two goals, the city has developed a comprehensive emergency management plan, which both consists of the first document, the core document, the emergency operations plan. Think of this as the narrative, the story about how we're going to proceed during a crisis or a major emergency. In support of that, the city also has developed and is developing annexes. These are attachments to the main plan that kind of give you greater detail about a specific hazard or a response function. It gives you a much more granular level of how to respond. And then finally, like any good organization, we're going to need some tools. Things are going to help us actually make things happen. We'll go through that briefly here. Again, the first item is the emergency operations plan. It's your touchstone during a crisis. It gives you the broad overview of both concept and policy and how the city would organize itself and how it would engage and provide services to the community during periods of extreme emergency or disaster. It talks about the fact that the city has an emergency operations center here in this facility that would form, if you would, a very small and consolidated, distilled version of the city government that could respond quickly to an incident or event, both gathering information, making decisions, and carrying out actions in support of the city residents. We also, in the emergency operations plan, talk about mutual aid, the fact that Oakley does not do things on its own. It's going to look to its neighbors, and in turn, neighbors will look to the city for assistance in some events. We also touch on recovery briefly because we can respond to any crisis or event, but rebuilding a community, restoring not just infrastructure, but the social fabric is going to be a critical component of how the city responds in the long term to a major emergency. Like any good bureaucracy, we've got our own glossary and acronyms that we use in a disaster, but the goal is what are the important ones? What are the ones that we all need to then be able to understand after a major emergency? And then finally, the annexes themselves. And I'll mention just as a highlight, for example, this is what your Emergency Operations Center organization would look like. Again, we're not using the day-to-day city governmental structure to form a response. We're distilling it, breaking it into smaller pieces, if you would, and bringing it together so it's a tighter, more cohesive, more responsive organization. And this is just an example of what it might look like if the Emergency Operations Center was completely and fully activated in response to a major disaster like a regional earthquake. One of the first annexes the city staff has been looking to develop is evacuation. Critically now in the state of California, especially now with these no-notice events, especially wildfire, how do we alert our residents? How do we get them mobilized? And how do we get them out of harm's way quickly? And of course, that's been a significant struggle for many local governments in California in the last 10 years, most notably just earlier this year in Los Angeles during their wildfire event. So the evacuation annex gives us, again, more detailed instructions on how we would mobilize city resources, most importantly with the city police department, but other allied public safety agencies, being able to respond to the incident, but also communicate with residents, use the county's warning system, and then how do we manage that evacuation so that it is not just pell-mell on the freeway and the roadways, but how do we make sure we reach all the residents that need to be evacuated? We also provide some detailed information. This is just an example here. These are evacuation zones that have been established by the county. Across the county, all the cities, unincorporated areas, residents live in zones that are pre-designated. And we're encouraging everyone to, if you would, know your zone. If you hear an emergency warning or you receive a notification on your phone and it tells about, okay, there's this kind of incident that's occurring, maybe it's a flooding event, and they provide some evacuation zones. Knowing that zone is going to allow you to understand, is this applicable to me? Maybe it's next door to me. But knowing the zones is very important, and that's how we manage these events now in California. They're not created on the fly, they're all pre-established, and that allows us to do faster and better emergency alert and warning. And then finally, as part of the CEMP, we have tools and supporting documents. If we're going to move fast in the midst of a crisis, we're going to have special tools that allow us to cut through, if you would, the red tape, make resource requests, and get people on the road quickly. And so we have tools that support the emergency operations staff, like forms here. You also have draft proclamations of local emergency, which is absolutely critical to shift, if you would, the legal status of the city during a major emergency or disaster. It empowers city-appointed officials to take significant and extraordinary actions to protect life and property. And so these sample proclamations are absolutely critical because having done these now in advance, the city is taking a significant step to make sure there are no omissions in trying to do this at the last minute. And then finally, small things like, who do you call? What are the names, the phone numbers of not just government staff, but also in the private sector, our nonprofit partners? What's the emergency phone book look like? So having those contacts, as well as inventorying and understanding what resources we might need ahead of time, is a significant aid to staff in those kinds of moments. And so that's really a real snapshot overview of your comprehensive emergency management plan. We'd love to talk about it. I'd love to talk about it all day long, but I understand you've got a lot going on. But I certainly turn it over to both the city manager and the assistant city manager, as well as any questions you may have.
All right, do I have any clarifying questions? Councilmember Fuller?
Yes, first, thank you very much, and thank you, Mr. Navarro, for all the work you've done. It's been extraordinary, and I see that you already have practice planned. So just looking at Studio 55's schedule, which I think is good. But my one question is, though, is why does this topic keep landing on the dais? In other words, I'm getting concerned. We seem to be receiving segments. Is this segment the final one? I mean, is this all comprehensive? How we seem to be getting it each week with a different one. So can you explain why we're getting the emergency plan in that manner?
One of the main roles when the city council approved the assistant city manager position, which is my position, was to bring the emergency management program into the city manager's office. And that was as a priority with the strategic plan. There are several items within the strategic plan that has a goal of updating the emergency operations program, the emergency management program within the city. And so I have been working on that in the time that I've been here to update that plan and bring that forward to the city council since the last plan was adopted in 2005. So I've just been taking steps to bring each item that needs to come to the council with the full support of staff who had to do quite a bit of review and input on all of these documents.
Okay, thank you. But and will this vote bring them all together or bring the whole situation together? Is this the last?
I can't promise that there won't be additional items, but this was the largest item that needed to come before the council, and now we will be at the point where staff is being trained on all of the emergency management procedures, including activating the EOC.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Williams?
I think maybe the pieces that Councilmember Fuller was talking about is last we looked at the hazard mitigation, adopting the hazard mitigation plan to be in line with the county and stuff. That's what I'm assuming. Okay, so my same question that I think I had when we were talking about the hazard mitigation plan is how are we getting all this info out to residents? Because you mentioned, like, you should know your zone. How are we helping our residents to communicate that? Because full transparency, I still don't know what freaking district I even live in, so how are we getting that information out to? I was elected at large. It's too hard. Too many numbers. I got it today. So how are we getting this information out to our residents? How are they going to know?
Wearing my other hat as the public information officer,
Yes.
We have been pushing out information on the city's social media accounts. We've also updated the city's website consistently. We are adding things on a regular basis. Know Your Zones has been added in preparation in the hopes that council would pass the emergency management plan tonight. That's in both English and Spanish. It does refer to the county as those are county zones, but we will be pushing out more information to the public, kind of a Know Your Zone zone campaign over the next couple months, and you'll just see repeats of that.
Cool. I see us maybe next year for National Night Out. Maybe we could help people spread the word too about what zones they live in. Okay, and then my question maybe potentially for you, because you sound like you go around and do these with various cities. You mentioned Palisades. Do you know? I mean, if ours wasn't updated since 2005, I have to imagine we're not the only city in California that hasn't had an update for a very long time. But did Palisades, do you know if they had current or more current plans?
Ooh, call fire on somebody else. Okay, let's see. Real briefly, though, I don't do a lot of consulting for other cities and towns. I've worked mostly in local government in the Bay Area as an emergency manager for most of the last 30 years. And actually, I really like Oakley, so I agree to help out. But most jurisdictions now feel compelled to update and revise their emergency operations plan every 5 years at a minimum. The state recommends every 3 years. They never do it, but they recommend locals do it every 5 years. This is to keep you current with existing regulation and policy, both at the federal and the state level, but also by adopting this plan, you are providing leadership and direction to city staff. And by touching on this frequently, you're ensuring that this remains a priority for the city as a whole.
Okay, it's interesting that we get penalties for not having our housing in compliance, but not our emergency preparedness. So again, friends in the audience, this is the largest audience we've had in a long time, so I'm gonna keep rallying you all. Maybe we should be reaching out to our senators and assembly. If one thing is important, we need to have safety of those residents who are moving here to be just as important. So that's it, thank you. I know I veered off my question, but.
And I see in the staff report, it does say it is expected to undergo changes over time due to updated regulations. So while we're approving it as a whole tonight, like you said, you can't guarantee there won't be more aspects that come back. Like we could get another law signed in tomorrow that's going to potentially make us have to come back and change this. So each time that there's going to be one of those, is it coming back to us?
If there's a change to the emergency operations plan, that does come back to the city council. The disaster council has the authority to approve changes to the annexes and the tools and supporting documents.
All right, thank you so much. Do we have any public comment on this item? Seeing none, I will bring it back to the council for deliberation, and the staff is recommending we accept the recommendation of the Oakley Disaster, City Council accept the recommendation of the Oakley Disaster Council and adopt the proposed resolution adopting the City of Oakley Comprehensive Management Plan and rescinding resolution number 126-05.
I'll move that.
Oh, sorry, I do
Oh,
see,
you have
I did not look
deliberations?
over, I did
Sorry.
not look over there, I apologize.
Sorry.
Vice Mayor Henderson?
First off, in my 30-year career, I've looked at a lot of different plans, and this plan has been done very well. When you talk about when it needs to be and how often it needs to come back, it's a living document. It's a living document that needs to be touched as much as changes happen. So I just say kudos to staff. This is an excellent plan, and I fully support it.
Councilmember Meadows?
I haven't spent 30 years looking at these plans, but saying that, Danielle, good job. You took on a massive project, and this time it was finished as opposed to before you were here, and I think you did a great job. So thank you for all your work.
Unfortunately, I've had to look at these along the way, so I'm pretty familiar with it. Councilmember Fuller? You have your button pushed? Fuller? Councilmember Fuller?
Yes, I agree with Councilmember or Vice Mayor Henderson. Having also been through a few of those, that all I can say is that, and I'm sure Councilmember Henderson or Vice Mayor Henderson can say this, but when it happens, it is chaos. And if you haven't documented the plan, if you haven't practiced it, if you haven't instilled it in your emergency personnel, or first responders, or even the whole staff, then it's too late. And I appreciate it. It's just, it's kind of like training. You train and train and train, and when are we going to be done, Sarge? Well, when you train again. So, thank you.
All right, now that I've looked around, I'm looking for that motion now.
Yeah, I still move it. Thank you.
All right, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. All right, moving on to item 6.3, introduction and waiver of the first reading of an ordinance of the City Council of Oakley amending section 2.1.003 of the Oakley Municipal Code concerning the appointment of the mayor and vice mayor. Derek Cole, City Attorney.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Before you're at your last meeting, you requested that we bring back an ordinance to amend your mayoral rotation, vice mayoral rotation ordinance. You directed that this office prepare 2 options, so I have done that. The first option is simply a modification of your existing system, which is a district system, and what it will effectively do is, because of some of the decisions you've made in the previous year and the implementation, as some of you transition off of at-large seats, and all of you now are in districts, will be essentially to recalibrate. And so we would just move up the rotation to District 2, which would be mayor next year. That would be Councilmember Henderson, who is currently our vice mayor, and then that would make Councilmember Meadows the vice mayor, and then we would rotate. So basically we were at District 5 this year, but that you took a vote not to place the District 5 council member into the mayoral position, and we have Councilmember Shaw serving as mayor. So what we would do is essentially recalibrate. So we would go 2, 1, and then we would start back with 5, 4, 3. And that would recalibrate with your existing practice. I made a change that you can leave in if it's your pleasure to go with this option, and that is what I called an acceleration. The concern is that under this scheme, if you choose not to appoint someone who is otherwise eligible because their district is up for that year, or if they don't have the 345 days experience, or if they just say, I don't want to do it, and you go to someone else, let's say in this case you have Mayor Shaw, who was our mayor this year, and she wasn't up, but next year her district would be up, which would mean she would serve twice in a row. And the concern there is if you keep a district rotation system, that might be unfair. The idea with the district rotation system is that you want to give every district a chance within a 5-year period. And in this case, you would be favoring one district by giving that district 2 years in a row. So what I have added is an optional, you can keep it at your pleasure or you can leave it out, but it would simply accelerate. So if you make the person who is going to be next year's mayor the mayor for the previous year, you would just skip that person and go to the next lowest district. So that's a recalibration. So it's essentially we're adjusting and then we're providing for an acceleration or recalibration. The other option, first I need to make a clarification to this option, and that is, well, let me introduce the option first. So this is a modified seniority option. So previously you had a seniority system which would basically say whoever hasn't served the longest moves to the top, and then we fill in reverse order. And you had a tiebreaker when you were an at-large city council. Whoever got the most votes during their election would prevail over the other person. And when we adopted your current system, I explained, and I think all of you agreed, that that doesn't work in a districted council system, because some of you might only run with one opponent. Others of you might run with two opponents or even three opponents. And so it's a winner take all. So if you're in a 3-member race, you could win with literally 33.34% of the vote. And if you are in a 2-person race, you could win with, 51% of the vote. Your margin would be much smaller. So you can't really have an apples comparison. It's an apples to oranges comparison. And so what we have done is we have taken the seniority system and we've simply replaced it with something where basically we look at the districts, who's been up, and we assign an order. And I've outlined that in the staff report. I've walked the orders through in the staff report. And then we would basically, if you have a successor that comes in, they will take your place. So we have an election in 2026. 2 of you are up. If both of you leave the office, your successors take your position that you would have under this ordinance. The same would be true. 3 of you will be up in 2028. If for whatever reason you are not either reelected or you choose not to run, your successors will take your place. And then the city clerk's office would maintain the rotation system. There would be a method to decline service. So if someone says, I don't want this, you go to the back of the line. If you choose not to, if you disqualify somebody, we have disqualification language that's been in our ordinance. It's in our current ordinance. It's been in our previous ordinance. And you have exercised that. If someone is disqualified by vote of the council, they go to the back of the line. The one change I need to make, though, is that it's getting kind of wonky. I apologize to everybody. It's not easy. Believe me, it was not easy to write. But I think we got it. And that is, we use 345 days in the district ordinance. The reason we do that is because you appoint in December. So we wanted to come up with a way where someone may not have technically served 365 days because they're going to be appointed in December. So we came up with 345 days. And so we need to insert that into the current, the seniority model. And I'm trying to find that. I think it is, we have language.
Paragraph B.
I'm sorry, B, yes. So the language says the mayor, I'm sorry, I'm struggling to find that here. Where it's 2.1003 and
2.1005B.
B, okay. And that is the, yes, so the person selected shall have been a member of the council. Instead of for at least 1 year, we would say at least 345 days. So the point is, if you get to your deliberations and you want to go with this option, my recommendation would be whoever makes the motion to move this version forward would add that amendment in. So again, it's an extremely wonky, it was not easy to draft this. I did connect with the mayor who helped me. I appreciate all of her effort to help me put these versions together. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any clarifying questions for staff? Seeing none, any public comments? All right, I'm going to bring it back to the council for deliberation, and I usually go last, but I am going to start just because this was an item that I had worked quite a bit on and I had an idea. So the things, since we are at deliberation, the things that I like and why I brought up the alternative of a hybrid was newly elected being able to take the place in line of an outgoing member. A newly elected person wouldn't automatically go to the bottom, which is what our old seniority did, and that means a district wouldn't be up to have their person as vice mayor or mayor for up to 5 years. And then if you only kept that person for 4 years and then you had a new person, it's going to be another 4 year, 5 years. And so it could be up to 9 years before your district has an opportunity to have representation for mayor. in working on this, it was also added that if a time does come that there are people that don't have a year experience, was something put in there, then as a majority vote, the council can choose who to put into that place. So I think all the work that was done, and I appreciate staff's work on this. I know I'm not easy when I'm stubborn, so I think it turned into something even greater than I had envisioned when I was talking about it on the dais. But that is my push. I would go with the second one, which is the hybrid of the seniority, but still making sure that all districts get a chance at equal representation. Councilmember Williams?
Yes, I have to agree. I know this work session on this went really long and it started to get very confusing. And so I think everybody did a really good job of distilling exactly what it gets to. And I think I have to agree with you. The thing I really like about it is the whole point of going to districts is to make sure that everybody feels that they have a chance to be represented. And so I think the seniority model makes it so that it's cleaner, and every district does have, like just how you were saying, where if somebody couldn't take that role, it's not fair that they have to just keep going down to the bottom if they get replaced. So my push would also be for this second one.
All right. Councilmember Meadows?
I'm also okay with option 2.
Vice Mayor Henderson?
And I know I was probably the one confused the most when we were going through on this, but option 2 makes good sense, and I think that'd be a good direction to move forward with.
You were confused or I was confused?
I'm not going to comment. So then do we have anyone like to make a motion to accept with the changes that Attorney Cole had recommended, changing the 1 year to 345 days?
I move to approve option 2 with the language in the longevity of 345 days.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Yes.
All right, passes with 4 ayes and 1 abstention. We are going to move on to item 6.4, which is consider the adoption of a censure by the City Council of Councilmember Fuller. And I'm going to give Attorney Cole an opportunity to present his supplemental staff report.
Yes, Mayor, members of the council, just to be clear, I'm only presenting the procedural part of this. I do want to reiterate, as stated in my staff report, neither I nor staff are taking any part in this discussion, and we should not be doing that, and we won't be doing that. But I did want to outline the process. So when a member of a council is proposed to be censured, I've outlined a process. We do not have a censure policy. There are some agencies that have that, very few, but there are some who do. We do not have that, and so we need to follow a process that has basic fairness worked into it. And so in this case, the proposal is that our mayor, who is the sponsor of this, would speak and present her reasoning for why this censure should be adopted. Then the object of the proposed censure, which is Councilmember Fuller, would have a right to speak in response. From there, we would have questions like we usually do. And then once the questions are done, we would go to the public. Once the public has its right to speak, then it comes back to the council before deliberations begin. Because the public may speak in favor or against the censure, Councilmember Fuller, who was the object of the censure, should have a right to respond to the public. And I do want to clarify, there are a number of comments that have been made in our written comment system. And so that the Councilmember Fuller could also respond to those written comments as well. Those are part of the public comments. So that would be a time for him not simply to take on anything he hears at the podium, but to take on anything that is in print that has been submitted to you and is at the dais. From there, it's deliberations, as you normally do, and I do want to emphasize that all 5 members of the council may vote, even the member who is proposed to be censured. There is no conflict of interest in a censure. And I just want to emphasize for the council and for the public, a censure is a political statement by a majority of a political body against one or more members of that body. So this is a political discussion, and this is a discussion for the 5 of you to have. And I want to reiterate that neither I nor staff can participate in this. I can participate for the very limited purpose of answering procedural questions, but I am going to ask and instruct our staff not to make any comments, and if they're asked any comments, I will ask them to refrain from responding.
Okay, thank you. So I will be presenting this item on behalf of the city since it involves council action. Staff will not be providing any additional reports for this matter. Tonight's item is the consideration of a resolution of censure regarding Councilmember Fuller. The action follows an independent third-party investigation that sustained findings of bullying and retaliatory conduct towards city staff. The censure also addresses a pattern of similar behavior towards fellow council members, other elected officials, and members of the public. Such conduct is inconsistent with the duties of public office, undermines staff morale, and erodes public trust in this governing body. The censure resolution before the council formally expresses disapproval of this conduct and calls upon Councilmember Fuller to immediately resign in order to protect the integrity of the city of Oakley and restore confidence in its leadership. This matter has also required the city to expend significant time and financial resources diverting attention and taxpayer dollars from essential services and priorities. The city of Oakley affirms that this community will not tolerate bullying, retaliation, or abusive behavior at any level up to and including the city council itself. There is no fiscal impact associated with this resolution. Following my presentation, Councilmember Fuller will have the opportunity to provide his rebuttal. After that, just as Attorney Cole stated, we will open it up for public comment. Once public comment concludes, Councilmember Fuller will be provided a final rebuttal before the council then deliberates and takes action. And the mayor's recommendation is that the city council adopt the attached resolution of censure, formally censuring Councilmember Fuller for bullying and retaliatory conduct and calling for his resignation. Councilmember Fuller, you now have the floor for your response.
Thank you. If Mr. Navarro can make sure, maybe turn up my volume a little bit, make sure that it carries. I hear him, it's a little quiet. I perceive a censure by my colleagues as a badge of honor. Each action signifies my courage, honor, integrity, transparency, and commitment to the people of the city of Oakley when faced with an oppressive environment. The proposed censure is the council's 3rd attempt to silence me. The first attempt occurred in 2022 when Anissa Williams was upset because I was not keeping quiet on issues that the city of Oakley faced. Mr. McMurray paid $20,000 for a consultant to facilitate a team-building exercise. The project went nowhere regarding the issue of silencing me. The next effort came in 2024 when McMurray contracted with the Institute of Local Government to moderate a seminar aimed at bringing the council together to work within a governing body. The meeting was arranged mainly to accommodate Anissa Williams' efforts to silence me. The cost of the contract was $5,000. The meeting went nowhere. Now we have arrived in the year 2025. Another investigation has taken place, this one costing the city of Oakley an outlay of $50,000. Actually, the city's portion is the portion of the cost of the investigation. The city's EMRF, I'm sorry, I do not know the full title, but it's the pooled resources of local government that serve as our insurance carrier, paid the remainder. I would estimate that the entire cost of the investigation was $70,000 or more. McMurray voiced allegations that I was harassing and bullying him, allegations which I denied. My thoughts were that there was no attempt to, my thoughts were there was an attempt to sever me from what had become secret City Hall operations. Cora Pane Bianco of Stallard and Pane Bianco completed the investigation. Pane Bianco is an attorney. She maintained the investigation was impartial, but I have doubts. The city's insurance carrier was funding the operation. The insurance carrier faced severe liability if McMurray's allegations were not sustained. If Ms. Payne Bianco turned in a non-sustained allegations, the insurance company would have accepted them. However, this would be the last investigation for the contract with their firm for the investigation. I'm sure that Ms. Payne Bianco was thinking the same. They don't like coming in and with no's. The censure is based entirely on Ms. Payne Bianco's investigation. My colleagues say Ms. Payne Bianco wrote that I was harassing and bullying McMurray, among other things. However, neither my colleagues nor anyone else will allow me to read the report. My request to City Attorney Derek Cole for a copy of the investigation was denied, as he said I would never be allowed to read it. According to Cole, there would not be a public disclosure of the report, despite the enormous sums of public money paid to complete the investigation. I am supposed to trust that my colleagues would not mislead me as to the results. No, I do not trust their summation of the report alone. However, they are basing the censure on the contents of the report, or what they say are the contents of the report. Yet they refuse to allow me to read the report. How did we arrive at this tipping point within our community? We need to go back to the very beginning. Before the election of 2020, McMurray was a school board member of the Byron Union School District. The Byron School District serves Byron and Discovery Bay. McMurray experienced difficulties with the Contra Costa grand jury, along with his fellow board members. The Byron School District did not supply emergency supplies to the schools for availability in the event of an earthquake. News sources interviewed McMurray. Various news sources reported that McMurray said he did not believe school districts should be required to purchase earthquake supplies for children. Instead, parents should do so. When reporters asked McMurray what would happen if the parents could not afford them, McMurray responded that the parents of economically deprived children could afford them. He went further to say he drove around Byron and saw parents using drugs and loitering around liquor stores. They wasted their lives on such items instead of taking care of their children. I prevailed in the 2020 election. The date of the election was November 3rd, 2020. McMurray resigned his position with the school board on November 5th, 2020. I bring this up because many people at Oakley City Hall initially said they did not know who might become city manager. Brian Montgomery left the city. McMurray's actions contradict that statement. The catalyst for censure, again, this agenda item is Shannon Shaw. Yes, the same Shannon Shaw I advocate people in District 4 replace in the next election if they want to disperse the voting bloc that has formed on the city council dais. I was sworn in as a city council member in December 2020. I immediately encountered a barrage of ableist and ageist remarks. Many people inside City Hall believed that I was not capable of governing because of my disability and age. How was I going to keep up with the work requirements? My age and disability have been a continuous issue with those on the dais, except for Hugh Henderson and Sue Higgins, since I began my tenure on the council. I met with City Hall executive members to learn about them and their job requirements. During my meeting, I did ask about the situation with Byron Union School District. McMurray refused to discuss it. Cole, who was nearby and heard the conversation, said McMurray did not need to disclose any events with the school district. I heard talk in City Hall that we might consider McMurray to be the next city manager. I was disturbed by this and searched the web for the articles that pertain to McMurray's school board tenure. I queried many search engines. The search engine said that the articles regarding McMurray existed, but they were removed at the request of the concerned party, which would be McMurray. In other words, McMurray had the digital search engine scrubbed. So I came to understand McMurray's obsession with optics. He obviously wanted no footprint of his work in the Byron's Union School District. A person can find news of McMurray's statements through a manual search. I have not attempted a manual search to find the news articles. The City Council's selection as interim city manager was problematic. Brian Montgomery announced he was leaving Oakley. One day I received an email from City Hall saying McMurray was the designated interim city manager. I heard nothing about the selection process until the email arrived. I asked how that occurred. Cole told me that an ad hoc committee of Randy Pope and Sue Higgins was the designated group to make an interim selection. They did not need to consult with the council before doing so. Cole said that the ad hoc committee worked with Montgomery and him to appoint McMurray as the interim city manager. Cole said that the two did not need to talk with other council members outlined in the policy. I asked to see the policy. Cole contacted me and said he made a mistake. The policy expired 11 years prior. The ad hoc committee should not have made the selection. However, the appointment of McMurray to the interim position went forward. Subsequently, Cole received a $20,000 a year increase in salary. The foundation, albeit shaky, was in place for McMurray to become city manager. We moved forward in the city, getting plans together for road improvements, especially to East Cypress and Laurel. Anissa Williams was unrelenting in her quest to quell my posts in social media. However, much to her credit, Sue Higgins had the leadership qualities to keep peace on the board, and we accomplished much. During this time, the council chose a new city manager. We hired a team to search. The search team afforded us 3 candidates to interview. The first choice was a woman who was a city manager in the city of Central Valley. We asked to interview her. The search team informed us that the woman chose another city to work in and had failed to notify them. So we interviewed McMurray and another candidate. The outside candidate was dismal, which McMurray left McMurray to be our city manager. One of the initial actions that McMurray took was to select an assistant to the city manager. The selection was strong. The person was knowledgeable about municipal government, eager to join the City Hall team, and demonstrated a strong work ethic. Then, within a relatively short period of time, McMurray informed us that he had terminated the person. When I asked about the termination, he said the person was using a locker room shower after their workout without his permission. McMurray discovered what he thought was a major transgression by accident. Then Sue Higgins left. Um, McMurray reprimanded the person for using the shower without his permission. Apparently, the person took exception to the reprimand, especially when McMurray reminded the person that he could terminate them at will. The person became feisty with McMurray. McMurray thought the attitude was disrespectful and counterproductive for the City Hall team. Thus, he immediately terminated the person. I did say that it was a harsh termination for taking a shower in the police locker room without his permission. He immediately reminded me it was his choice, and the matter was closed as for further discussion. Then Sue Higgins left, along with Randy Pope, and Shannon Shaw with Hugh Henderson were elected to the council. A significant change in direction occurred. A significant catalyst for acrimony with the city manager was the appointment of Shannon Shaw to the vice mayor position by bypassing my rotation to the position. Initially, Williams was appointed mayor as the rotation schedule delineated. The bypassing of me was done in a deliberate, humiliating manner, as Cole repeatedly mentioned during the meeting that I was to be the vice mayor. I was aware that the city manager, Joshua Murray, knew that I would not receive the vice mayor position before the meeting. I asked him why he had not warned me of the fiasco, and he said he could not because of the Brown Act. I disagreed with the assessment. Subsequently, during March of April in the same year, McMurray's evaluation took place. I took considerable time to reflect and assess McMurray's performance. I completed the review, which was in the B+ to A- category. I mocked him with lower marks for his performance in technical capabilities. McMurray had not demonstrated knowledge adequate to enhance the city needs in the technology realm. During the same City Hall evaluation section with the City Council, McMurray became explosive with me. He yelled that I did not complete the evaluation objectively and could not rate him in specific categories because I had not consulted with him on his performance in those areas. He railed against me because I had not awarded him a perfect score on this evaluation. McMurray blasted me with a statement that I was ruining his career because his performance rating was not ideal. His performance review became a public record, and consequently, he had no future in city management because I did not rate his performance as perfect. McMurray went on to say I was retaliating against him because I was bypassed for the vice mayor position, which he had no part in. McMurray stormed out of the room and ran to his office. I discovered that Mr. McMurray believes he performs with perfections and expects all performance evaluations to reflect this. Mr. McMurray is continually concerned with his optics. Optics is a constant focus for Mr. McMurray. He believes the council should support him with remarks from council members that enhance his optics. I found that McMurray needs constant reinforcement from City Hall personnel about what he believes is his perfect performance by City Hall staff and council members. If they do not regularly congratulate him on the outstanding job he is doing, people are disloyal and disparaging. Mr. McMurray immediately shifted from being a working partner with me, providing solid government for city residents, to viewing me as an antagonistic foe who was his enemy. I requested information. He responded he was too busy. If I asked a question, he would indicate that it was a stupid question. McMurray would not forward records to me. The only way to obtain them was through the public records request. Those records were delayed due to ongoing questions about my intentions regarding the records request, along with other stalling techniques. I found his demeanor immature. I need to digress at this statement to include an incident that occurred this time period. In the past, I met regularly with Mr. McMurray in his office before council meetings. At the conclusion of one of the meetings, where I always took my service dog, I stood to leave. I noticed my shoe was untied. Exasperated, I placed the papers in my left hand onto a chair to my left. I then knelt in front of McMurray's desk, which at that time was a leftover of the Montgomery area. It was an enormous item that took much of the space in McMurray's office. As I was tying my shoe and keeping my service dog keeping control of my service dog in the process, I heard two loud clunks under the top of McMurray's desk. One was from the front of the desk, and the other from the rear. I looked at the front of the desk. In a small space between the floor and the footwell covering, I observed a lengthened steel rod with a silver screw at the end. I looked over the top of the desk and noticed that Mr. McMurray had pulled his chair back from the desk, and it was against the wall behind him. His arms were fully extended and between his knees. I saw Mr. McMurray had his hands clasped and held a brown wooden object, which I recognized as the butt of a gun. Based on my 22 years of service in the Los Angeles Police Department and the United States Marine Corps during the Vietnam era, I determined Mr. McMurray had taken hold of a gun and was holding it between his legs at the low ready. I ducked below the top of the desk, finished tying my shoe, and picked up my papers and backed out of the office. I still do not understand why McMurray believed he needed to draw a gun. At this juncture of the narrative, I need to apologize to the people of Oakley and Oakley City Hall staff. I did not report the incident at the time it occurred. I believe doing so would cause further angst, and reporting to the City Council would obviously not have been productive. Reporting it to the senior City Hall staff meant informing McMurray. I did not see the police ops chief as an option. He serves at the will of the city manager. If the chief had initiated an investigation, I believe McMurray would terminate him. My mistake was being intimidated by the situation. Failure to act left the door open to treat a City Hall staff member with the same action. However, subsequently, I reported the incident to District Attorney Diana Beckton. I have not received a reply from her. Also, during this period, McMurray received an application to join the Rotary Club of Oakley. Aaron Meadows, an employee of MDRR, delivered the application. McMurray was thrilled and excited. I mentioned my thoughts that the club was not strong, but McMurray looked forward to becoming a Rotarian. McMurray began shutting me off from the operations of City Hall. One example was the day the city experienced a cyber attack. Our computers were hacked and frozen. Coincidentally, FBI agents from the San Francisco field office assigned to public Corrections Investigations were visiting my home the morning of the cyber attack. The agents were Jason Jones and Kevin Rivera. We were discussing the operations of City Hall. Among other items, I mentioned that the city was experiencing a cyber attack. As the agents left, Agent Jones advised me to ensure that the city's manager details the cyber attack, including who was involved, how much ransom was demanded, etc. Jones' closing words were, "Don't let him snow you. You need to know what happened." I did ask for details. Mr. McMurray said he would inform us all of the details when the insurance finished assessing the damages. He did not provide any further information. I did request additional details, but he replied that I was wasting his time. I do believe he categorized my questions as bullying and harassing. I began to notice what I consider favoritism in the municipal construction projects. RR Construction was winning a substantial number of those contracts. I dug into the figures and I observed that following the awarding of the contracts, RR submitted change orders that significantly increased the cost of the project. Some of the change orders took the project cost above the next lower construction bid. I requested the contracts awarded to RR Construction for a period of time. I also asked for all change orders for those contracts. I reviewed 10 projects. 4 of those projects received approved change orders that raised the final cost of the project above the highest bidder. I contacted McMurray and asked him to explain how this happened. Despite numerous reminders, McMurray has not responded. I am sure he was saying believed I was bullying and harassing him about the situation. One incident during the period involved Shaw. She stood without notice and blurted out that she would not allow an older person to city or serve on the Oakley City Council. Older people lack the vision and energy to bring the city forward. They are a drag on city business. Fast forward to the spring 2024. The filing candidates for City Hall was forthcoming. I have heard so many times from my colleagues that I am old and should not seek re-election. My disability slows me down, I should not seek re-election. I am too vociferous and should not seek re-election. The cruelest attack came from Marilyn Tiernan. Excuse me?
We are not, stop.
Excuse me?
We are not going to engage. You can continue on with your comments, or you are not going to engage with the audience, and the audience is not.
I am speaking. She's the one that interrupted.
I am
Is this a
asking
biased
both of
interview?
you to stop.
No,
I am
I
asking
cannot
Councilmember Fuller. I don't want to take a break in the middle of your statement.
Are
I
you
do
gonna
not.
stop my statement?
I do not want to take a break in the middle of your statement. I'm asking her to not make a comment, and I'm asking you to continue.
Okay, thank you. Can I have some peace?
Or are you going to continue?
The cruelest attack came from Marilyn Tiernan, the then president of the Diablo Water District Board of Directors. She approached me and said Shannon Saul was going to dump Enisa Williams and align herself with Tiernan. The arrangement of the 3 of us would be advantageous because she had Jason Shaw, Shannon Shaw's spouse, in her pocket and under control. Jason Shaw is a member of the board of directors of the Diablo Water District. I said I was not interested. Consequently, Tiernan began a public campaign during council meetings to harangue and torment me concerning not only my age and disability, but also my two dead children, Tanya Sinowski and Daniel Fuller. Each meeting, she would sit directly in front of me, exchanging snickering glances with Williams and Shaw when I was speaking. During public comments, she stood at the podium and claimed my grief was affecting my ability to sit in a governing position. Tiernan could claim it was apparent my disability was interfering with my ability to complete the strains of public life. Tiernan sent multiple messages with grief associations attached. The attacks were unrelenting. I asked McMurray for assistance with the harassment and torment, and his reply was, "Sounds like a problem you need to work out with Tiernan." The election did come about. My 4 colleagues selected a candidate to run against me. It was Oleski Chico. Oleski Chico described me as an old man that sometimes barks. His campaign hinged on his belief that I was too old and disabled to be in public office. McMurray joined in the endorsement of Chico. McMurray gained 20% of the vote. I prevailed in the election. Much to the dismay of my colleagues, I was now realizing that my colleagues and McMurray were inseparable and did not want to disclose what they were doing in this city. In other words, they were in secret mode. Keep in mind that Shaw, Henderson, Meadows, and McMurray are members of the Rotary Club of Oakley. Life continued in the city. McMurray relied heavily on the Rotary Club of Oakley voting bloc to cover for him. McMurray was demonstrating that he was capable of doing whatever he liked without accountability. I was reminded of my mistake in not reporting the gun incident. McMurray's behavior was becoming more reckless and arrogant and was exceeding the bounds of good judgment in my perception. McMurray's evaluation came. My evaluation reflected my disappointments. I did document my concerns with the gun incident. The day after I submitted the evaluation, I received a telephone call from City Attorney Cole. He said he was rejecting the view. Cole went on to say that he believed there was no way that McMurray would take possession of a gun in his office. Cole could not conceive that McMurray would do such an act. He demanded that I remove the gun incident from the evaluation. I did not do so. I subsequently received a notice that McMurray filed a harassment complaint against me. Cole informed me that I could not come to City Hall except for council meetings. I was not to talk to any city employees. I would attend closed sessions from down the hall remotely. My key card to City Hall was turned off. I understand that city was going to issue I understood that the city was giving me, was going to leave me out of the loop regarding City Hall business and did so. I discovered that the community was shut out as well. The forthcoming ice rink is an example. The item was discussed in secret among select members of the council. The ceiling of the amount of money of the city manager could spend on acquiring a contract or item was raised twice, allowing to McMurray to approve the ice rink without a council meeting. Consequently, Oakley will have an ice rink next to Ace Hardware without any resident input. I realized that they were investigating as if I were a city employee. It was a mistake because I am not a city employee, but an elected member in an entirely different set of circumstances. I contacted Ms. John Luberke, former city attorney of Stockton, council member attorney for Hiram Crabtree's Sontag of Stockton. He graciously accepted to serve as my legal representation. The investigation continued. My position in the investigation was that of an employee. Consequently, I was not to talk with any employees. I was to get information regarding city operations only during council meetings. I would not be allowed to discuss city business during council meetings. I was to contact Cole if I had any city questions. I did contact Cole concerning issues. He replied that I could ask questions only with him about systemic concerns, such as formatting the agenda. Cole would not provide any information of what pending concerns were in the city or on the agenda. It became evident that the city was going to freeze me out of city operations. The lack of communication continued for months. Cole announced the findings of the investigation were unfavorable. They substantiated some of the allegations. Cole went on to state that since the investigator confirmed their truth, it was the end of the discussion. Cole called for a special session to discuss the investigation in closed session. Cole said that I could not attend. At that intersection, Mr. Luberke reminded him needed to step in. Mr. Luberke reminded Cole that I was an elected official of Oakley. Because I was an elected official, I could not be excluded from closed session hearings. Cole begrudgingly relented. Cole told me that I was lucky. If I were an employee, the city would terminate me. As he said so, it dawned on him and my colleagues that I'm not an employee of Oakley, but an elected official. An elected official has a different role and responsibility than an employee. After lambasting me on what Cole perceived were my derelictions, he read a 3-page single list of punishments for me. Mr. Luberke reviewed them and stated they were punishments. The city could not punish me unless I received due process. In other words, the city is not in a position to punish me until I can present evidence, review evidence in a judicial settings, be allowed to confront witnesses against me in person, and other aspects of due diligence, due process. The investigators' notes would not be substantiated in terms of punishment. They are strictly investigator notes that return saying they sustained allegations. And no one will allow me to see that report or anyone in the community to read the report. That is a promise from Mr. Cole. Mr. Luberke and I are waiting for an answer to whether the city intends to go forward with due process. If the city elects to do so, it must provide an unredacted copy of the investigator's report. So we wait. In the interim, the city council should release the report regardless of any legal proceedings. Ms. Panning Bianco prefaced each interview with a statement she could not guarantee confidentiality. The people of Oakley are entitled to read what their tax dollars produced. What we have is a person whose personal optics are the most important duties as city manager. McMurray shows more concern for his public image, regardless of what needs to occur in that goal. McMurray did not take my evaluation of him. So for a year, he refused to cooperate with any information I needed. My asking questions was harassing and bullying him in his description. Out of obvious spite, McMurray refused to share key information about the safety and well-being of the community. I do believe he was informing me of what would happen if I did not give him a stellar rating the next time. The subsequent evaluation was not to his liking. So here we are. He filed a harassment and bullying complaint against me, which caused tens of thousands of dollars to be spent on investigating. In the process, McMurray and the council prevented me from representing Oakley as a elected official. I stand up against such behavior. So tonight, the council will censure me for doing so. Keep in mind, this is the third time around. Keep in mind, the council and I do not philosophically agree with one another. Again, the allegations are not factual. Again, I see the censure as a testament to my courage, tenacity, grit, and integrity to stand up to my colleagues as they habitually create an unpleasant environment for me. Over the years, I have been habitually harassed by my colleagues because of my age and disability. One example is that Shaw continually says, I am disabled, but she is also disabled. However, her disability does not show. The inference is she is only a little disabled, but Fuller has serious deficiencies because of his disability, and it is obvious. I have reported the abuse to McMurray many times, but he has failed in writing and orally, but he has refused to act. The investigation allowed me to experience how city staff is treated. I was appalled. It was overbearing, unjust, demanded servitude from the person being investigated, and it was not acceptable. Let me say to McMurray and to Haiti, our human resources director, and Cole, I never want to see an employee of ours treated as poorly as I was. Yes, I will not resign. However, for those who may be disappointed to hear such, Meadows has vowed to force me to resign. Yes, Meadows believes he is powerful enough to do so. The drama in City Hall continues. I'm going to walk over to the city clerk and hand her a copy in this envelope of my statement as it appears, and ask it to become a part of the official record.
Okay. We are now going to open public comment on this item. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes each. We received many comments online. Those that indicated that they did not wish to speak, those comments will be entered into the public record. We did have one that did decline to state their name, but indicated they did wish to speak. If that is you and you are here, please make sure to indicate or fill out a blue speaker card so you are able to have your 3 minutes. But I will go to Michael Dupre.
Well, I have never heard so much bloviating BS in my life, and I've been around.
Excuse me, we are going to refrain from applauding and booing. We have an audience full of different opinions, and please make sure to keep yours silent.
I don't need an investigator or lawyer or anything. I've followed the actions of George Fuller over the tenure as an elected city council member. The litany of misuses of his position is extensive. Lies, bullying, ignorance of basic ethical standards, misuse of social media, joining groups just for personal gain only, falsely accusing fellow council members. It's really disgusting. George, the First Amendment has many protections on freedom of speech. However, Fuller, you should pay closer attention to the annotations of Amendment 1, Section 7.7 through 7.9, and then take a look at the rest of them. Your moral compass is severely skewed. You've done absolutely nothing for the city of Oakley. Nothing. Nothing for anybody else that I can tell. Your abuse of city staff, council members, and constituents is reprehensible. You are an insult and an embarrassment to our city, and you should resign now. I don't know what mythological world you belong in, but it sure as hell ain't here.
Okay, thank you. Our next speaker is going to be Conan Moats.
Thank you, Mayor Shaw, council members. I don't know how anyone in this room cannot question the state of mind of Council Fuller. I don't believe that he is of sound mind. I think that these delusions and paranoid fantasies are something that should have no place in local government. I've spent years studying and reading about good government. This is bad government right here. So I'm appalled by the ongoing behavior of Councilman Fuller, and I'm in full support of the resolution. It's unfortunate that this body must direct time and energy at censuring a council member, but it's obvious that the actions of Fuller demand it. The most important part of the resolution is Clause 5, which calls for his resignation. In light of the seriousness of these sustained findings, demonstrated history of this behavior of staff, fellow council members, other elected officials, and constituents such as myself, and the waste of city time and financial resources, the city council hereby calls upon Member Fuller to immediately resign from office. Now, a badge of honor, had you any honor, then you would be able to wear that badge and perhaps improve your legacy by standing down. If Fuller is interested in doing best for what is for the city, he must tender his resignation immediately. He has injured city staff, city officials, and his constituents with his words and deeds. He has continued to make baseless allegations against people without evidence for political purposes or for revenge. I sympathize with those who have to work with him because he does not know how to cooperate with others towards a common goal. This ironically has made it more difficult to further causes and agenda items that he claims to support. He's made claims against other council members for years, yet nothing has come of these allegations because they're not supported with evidence. The harm that Fuller has done to our city is inexcusable, and sadly officials have had little choice but to grin and bear it. As a constituent, he has attempted to defame my character on multiple occasions, and I will not stand for it. I have several examples of this, but the most vile is that he claims that I attempted to cause physical harm to him and his dog. In writing, he claimed that I stalked him at his residence in an attempt to kill or maim him and his dog when he walked onto the street. This claim is indeed absurd, but if it was true, why did he not attempt to prosecute me criminally for this action? I'm an educator by profession, and Councilman Filler making outlandish accusations could be dangerous. If people believe him, this could have serious consequences in the lives of me and my family. The only reason he made up the story is because I publicly criticized his politics. As a council member, his behavior could have a chilling effect on those that wish to criticize their local government. I, for one, refuse to be intimidated by his tactics.
Mr. Moats.
Yes, thank you.
Your time is up.
Okay, I will conclude with the only remedy is for him to step down from office.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
The next speaker is Donna Chaddock.
Mayor Shaw, council members, I mean no disrespect to Derek Cole, but when he was talking about item 6.3, he used the word wonky several times. Wonky, definition, crooked, off-center, askew, crooked. It's of a thing, unsteady, shaky, wobbly, not functioning correctly, faulty. I had a lot of things I wanted to say today, but I'm going to put it away, and this is the only thing I want to say at this point. I'd like to see that report that was done. I'd like to see that and read it for myself so that I have the facts. Thank you for your time.
All right, our next speaker is Michael Tays.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. I just found out about the city, what's going on here. I mean, I'm not in for bullying or nothing like that there. I feel that all the city council members should have the fair and equal right to speak. It doesn't matter which one you are. I'm not for it or against it. I just don't think this is the way to go. I feel that if we're trying to get a city council member out, why don't we have an election on this with the residents of Oakley voted them in? Why aren't they voting them out? It shouldn't be done by the council. It should be done by the citizens of Oakley. And if it's not right, the way I say, I'm not going for either one. I would speak for any of you on here that you all have the right to speak, and that's the way I feel. Thank you.
All right, our next speaker is Alexi Chuko.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, council members, and city staff. My name is Oleksiy Chuko, and tonight I'm speaking to you in a capacity of a resident of District 5, the very district that is currently represented by Dr. Fuller. Let me be absolutely clear tonight. This is not commentary on Councilmember Fuller's personal character. I will leave this privilege to God or any higher power that Dr. Fuller subscribes to. It is strictly about a pattern of behavior that undermines the dignity of this council and the people that it serves. Over time, Dr. Fuller has left behind a trail of bullying, retaliation, and disrespect, of which was represented in public comments tonight. This was directed towards his colleagues, city staff, appointees, and even his own constituents. Such conduct is incompatible with the trust that public places in an elected official. During the last election cycle, what really should have been a fair and friendly competition between several of us running for the District 5, it turned into a vicious campaign of personal attacks. I was repeatedly called boy by Dr. Fuller in various text messages, language that was both condescending and inappropriate. I initially chose not to respond publicly to this, hoping that it would just stop. Well, it did not. Then it got even uglier. At some point, I was told to go back to Ukraine. Well, let me be very clear, Dr. Fuller. I'm an American citizen, and I worked very, very hard for many years to achieve this privilege. That remark was not just directed at me, it was really aimed at all immigrants who believe in a promise of this wonderful nation. And considering the suffering that my family and millions have endured in the war in Ukraine, it was particularly cruel and disgraceful. When I refused to bow to intimidation, Dr. Fuller, at the first council meeting right after the election was over, tried to dissolve the Planning Commission, of which at a time I was a chairman. An obvious act of retaliation That is plain abuse of power. At certain point this year, Councilmember Fuller revoked my access to his Nextdoor account, which took away my ability to reach my representative on this council. When he wrote, "It sounds like you're planning to take a run at me" in November 2024, in an email exchange earlier that year, he revealed exactly how he sees public office: as something to defend from challengers, not as a duty to the people that he represents. Look, leadership is not about guarding a chair, Councilman Fuller. It is about serving the district that was entrusted to your care. District 5 deserves better. Oakley deserves representatives who listen, who build bridges, who rise above personal vendettas and try to work together. Dr. Fuller.
Mr. Chuko, your time's expired.
Thank you. I only have 2 words for you. Step down.
I have one final speaker card. It does not indicate whether they wish to speak. Marilyn Tiernan.
Boy, as a public representative, I am embarrassed for the city of Oakley. I love this city and have lived here almost 40 years. I have never witnessed anything like you. You have attacked every elected official in this city. You have reported every one of us for made-up stories. You, my dear, have also attacked my staff at Diablo Water District. We have had to have them call either the GM or myself if you ever call there because of the harassment that had continued. I don't know what to say to you, George. It has nothing to do with your age or disability. We live in a wonderful city. We live in a very tight town. Everybody knows each other. We jump in and help each other. You are a cancer in our community, and I don't have a cure for it. The only thing I can say is exactly what my colleagues have said. Do us a huge favor and step down. We do not need you spreading rumors, attacking a city manager who has seen us through 4 years of absolute chaos, who got us back on track. How dare you attack these people? Our chief of police, who has completely turned that department around. I'm stunned, George. Why would you do that? Why would you attack people? Why would you attack Shannon, who is trying to do the right thing for the city? Or Hugh, or Aaron, or Anissa? Those are your colleagues. Those are people you should be holding hands with to make our community better. What is wrong with you? Think about it. You will have a day of reckoning, my friend.
All right, that concludes public comments. We will thank you to everyone who spoke. Councilmember Fuller, you may now offer any final rebuttal if you have one. You still have an opportunity to speak. I just wanted to know if you wanted to comment.
I have no further comments until I read the entire unredacted report and discuss it with legal counsel.
All right, so this matter is now back before the council for discussion. Do I have any council members that would like to speak? Councilmember Williams?
I do think it's important, just based on a couple public comments that we heard. Censure is different from censorship. There will be no stifling of speech. Councilmember Fuller will still be allowed to spread his misinformation and incorrect things all over. So there is no silencing. I find the First Amendment to be a very important thing, and I do want anybody. He's mentioned the 3 times that we've tried to censure him when we tried to do community, team building and things like that. One called for me, one Vice Mayor Henderson, even though I'm getting both of them. But You can watch the videos. It's not about censorship. I even said several times, this is a last resort. So I just wanted to get that out there. I am disgusted that we have even come to this. The lies and misinformation that Councilmember Fuller has put on public record tonight should motivate every resident to call for his resignation because of the risk he puts our community in. The city has videos of every meeting that show what he alleges is patently false, and he obviously needs a circus in order to feel that he is relevant. I want to be very clear. This is not a disagreement about politics or personality. It's about conduct, repeated, harmful, dishonest conduct that has violated the public's trust, undermined our staff, and disrespected this city. There have been plenty of examples of that behavior tonight. Since before I was even elected, Councilmember Fuller targeted me along with other candidates with false accusations, claiming I was going to raise taxes on day one because I thought our community deserved a proper library. That lie was the beginning of a long pattern, spreading misinformation, twisting facts, and attacking anyone who dared to correct him. And has been demonstrated this evening, he makes allegations in order to sully people's name, and conveniently there's no evidence, or he says he hasn't bothered to search for the evidence. And still, we have all made every attempt and effort to try and work with him as we would any other colleague. Over the years, he's accused staff and council of money laundering. He's claimed millions of dollars were missing. He suggested secret rezoning schemes, all of it without evidence, and all of it is because he either doesn't understand how city government works or chooses not to. He has told residents that City Hall is corrupt, when the truth is that City Hall continues to serve this community with professionalism and integrity despite his actions to undermine that. But it's not just misinformation, it's intimidation. Residents have been harassed and reported to code enforcement simply for questioning him. He's blocked constituents from his public page, a violation of their First Amendment rights, which the DA has been made aware of with multiple complaints from residents. He's belittled and demeaned women, calling them mouthpieces and questioning their intelligence. He told a resident who spoke tonight that he should just go back to Ukraine. And when my teenage daughters were helping to hang door hangers for that constituent, he followed them and harassed them in an effort to intimidate them. They called us terrified about what was happening. Children should be allowed to walk down the street of a public neighborhood, especially days before Halloween, as this was. This behavior is not just inappropriate, it's dangerous. It sends a message that power excuses cruelty and accountability to our residents who expect members of the City Council to understand the items that they are making decisions on. We have tried everything, removing him from committees, denying leadership roles, limiting his access to staff, calling for team building. Nothing has changed. His conduct has only escalated. We've heard from many residents tonight that they have experienced this conduct, and the sheer number of clubs that he has been barred from should cause him to reflect and realize that the only one common denominator in all of these is him. A censure is not a political act, it is a moral one. It is this council saying enough. Enough of the lies, enough of the bullying, enough of the chaos that keeps good people afraid to speak up or even want to come to work. Oakley deserves better, our staff deserves better, and this council deserves to be able to do its work without being dragged through endless theatrics and conspiracy theories. I take no joy in saying this, but silence would make us complicit. It's time all of us stand up for the truth, for integrity, and for the people who make this city run every single day. It is in the best interest of the city for you to change this pattern of behavior or step down.
Vice Mayor Henderson?
Why are we here tonight? We're here tonight because a complaint came in April. We took the complaint serious because our job is to take care of our city employees. We brought in a third-party investigator through our insurance, and we went through an investigation. The investigation took longer than it was anticipated to allow additional time for Dr. Fuller to get counsel and to be prepared for the interviews. We talk about costs. Bills as of into September is $32,000. We still haven't been billed for 2 months worth of this investigation. That's $32,000 that could have been somewhere else used in the city. And everybody in the city has a project that would love for that money to go to it. But let's talk about staff time. Over 100 hours of staff time coordinating interviews, coordinating documents. Again, staff time that could have been used for other things in the city. We get the report back. We're in closed session with Dr. Fuller. I asked 2 questions, and it comes back to accountability. And when you look at that accountability, the first question was, is there any ownership in this investigation? Is there any ownership in these actions? And the reply was, I want to talk to my attorney before I'll answer any questions. The second part of accountability, especially sitting up here having to make decisions on this, is this going to happen again? Is this a repeated action? And again, when I asked that question, it went back to needing an attorney. Our duty up here is to protect our employees, to protect the city from further liabilities, further litigation. Because this investigation was run using our insurance, they have knowledge of this. They have knowledge that the report was confirmed that there was bullying and retaliation. And with that information, if it happens again, it opens us up for more liability. So that comes to action. How do we prevent this? How do we protect our employees? Based on what we've heard tonight, based on the investigation, I think it leaves us no choice but to ask Dr. Fuller to resign immediately and to censor him. I don't see any other choices for the city at this time.
Councilmember Meadows.
I agree with the comments made from Councilmember Williams and Vice Mayor Henderson. I also think that Councilmember Fuller needs to resign immediately. It's been a disgrace to the city. He thinks he's protecting the citizens. He thinks he's some hero. You're not. You're not a hero. You've made things worse for the council, for the staff, for the citizens, for the other special districts in this city. You've done nothing. 2021, I got turned into the FPPC along with, at that time, Mayor Sue Higgins and 2 staff members. Why? Why did I get turned in? Because I walked into the council chambers in here from the back at 6:25 p.m. According to Councilmember Fuller, we had a secret meeting and violated the Brown Act, which everybody in here that is in public office knows you need 3 people to violate the Brown Act. All the 4 of us did was happen to emerge into the same point at the same time, coming out the back door into the chambers at 6:25 p.m. There's got to be some conspiracy. We're against them. So we get turned into the FPPC. What does the FPPC find? Nothing. Every single member sitting up here has been turned into the FPPC at least once. There's members sitting out in the public that have been turned into the FPPC. I was turned in again within the last year, along with Councilmember Williams, because at one point she owned a vineyard or had a vineyard on her property, and because I owned a vineyard in downtown Oakley. He thought that we were doing something wrong with trying to bring in wineries onto residentially zoned properties. Again, what did the FPPC find? Nothing. After wasting everybody's time, wasting our time, wasting their staff time, found nothing. He wants to keep bringing up the Rotary. What he doesn't tell you is he was an original member of the Rotary Club. He got kicked out of the Rotary Club. How many people do you know that get kicked out of a service organization? I know one. And somebody else said it, but I've heard he's been kicked out of other service organizations. That's pretty telling about your character. He loves to post on Nextdoor innuendos. I don't know, 6 days ago, I think it is, 7 days ago, whatever. He posted about something with garbage in San Francisco. I don't even know what's going on with them and Recology, whatever. And garbage company in Oakland, recycling company, and the mayor that got recalled, and the mayor that got indicted, trying to implicate that our council and staff are doing the same thing. Again, he has no facts. He just wants to be the hero, because he's probably never been the hero. Going to the investigation, it was brought up that it was $32,000. It was also brought up that there was staff time involved. How many tens of thousands of dollars have we wasted because of his unfounded accusations? He's wasted time from staff. He's wasted our resources. And not just in the last 6 months. He's wasted our staff's time for 5 years. He doesn't get what's going on. He thinks everybody is out to get him. He doesn't understand contracting law. It was sustained in the report that bullying of and harassment of staff. It goes back to, again, that we getting turned into the FPPC in 21. When I got turned in, Mayor Higgins got turned in, but 2 staff members got turned in. That's harassing staff. You were right, though, Councilmember Fuller. As a council, we cannot make you resign. You were absolutely right. It's unfortunate, but we can't. But if you were an employee, you would have been gone. Already mentioned the bullying. I think I already mentioned that he bullies citizens, blocks citizens, says derogatory comments to citizens. You brought up that you've been bypassed for leadership. You were bypassed because you're not a leader. There is no way we can have you out representing this city on a regional basis. You're a liability to the city, and you should resign immediately.
Okay, I have a statement, but before I get to that, as the mayor, I would like to be able to be a council member of the last 3 years. But I also want to respond to some of the comments that were made tonight. A subject of an investigation doesn't get access to reports. You are the subject of that investigation. You, in any world, like IA investigations and law enforcement, you don't get access to that. You get the findings, but you don't get access to it. And as far as releasing it to the public, this is a personnel matter. That's not something that we would do. It's that person has an expectation of some sort of privacy. So just kind of wanting to put that out there. I am going to go to my mayor's statement, but again, give me a little bit of grace right now. Councilmember Fuller, you wanted to go all the way back to when McMurray was on a school board. Well, if you want to talk about patterns of behavior, you were sued for bullying a teacher into changing your son's grade when you were a school board member in West Covina. We can go back. I wasn't going to do it, but you brought it up, you opened the door, so I want to go ahead and put it out there. We bypassed you, not Josh, not staff, not the chief, not any resident. We did it. We did it because that is something that we can do. We cannot force you to resign, but what we can do is we can use this little limited amount of information. And Councilmember Meadows is right. I can't imagine having you represent me at the mayor's conference with 19 cities. Look at what you've done tonight. Your statement tonight proves retaliation. You did this. You made those statements. You brought to light things that we have been very cautious about bringing to light. You did that to continue your retaliation. Shame on you. Josh has not received a perfect eval from any of us, ever, and I have never been asked why I gave a lower than, the top score. You have not been able to provide any evidence to your accusations. There is video and the things that you say, and that I'm this ageist and I don't housing in Pittsburgh. They're my life. They are my job. They are like literally the thing I get up every morning to do because I love what I do. And then this disability thing, when I say I have a disability, it is because I may not physically look disabled, but I have a broken back that's sitting up here and having to deal with hours of useless conversations that we've had tonight because we've had to be forced to do this censure. It hurts me. But you know what? It's the job I signed up for, so it's fine. I don't bring it up. The only time I bring it up is when you want to constantly talk about it. So thank you for showing us exactly who you are today. Being an elected official does not allow you the right to bully and retaliate. No position anywhere is allowed that right. Just because you are elected does not mean that you do not have to treat the people that work for you any different than any other supervisor. And I hope that your supervisors see this tonight and take action. Okay, now I'm going to go back to being the mayor. I apologize. Thank you. All right. Actually, no, I've got one more. On September 13th, 2022, you had an issue with a resident talking about staff during public comment. At the end of that meeting, you requested a policy limiting public comment and restricting members of the public from complaining about city employees. Your exact comment. I want to make it clear, our employees are to be treated with dignity and respect. They step forward and commit themselves, and they are not to be insulted on an ongoing basis because it's easy to do. We have some of the best employees in the United States as far as I'm concerned. You can bring forward, our police department is exemplary. If there is a complaint, you have a complaint process or a review to investigate. We can bring reports forward or complaints forward and they will be investigated in a proper manner. But I really want to see a policy in place as soon as possible where a public comment in a public forum that the only discussion will be issues involving the city. And if you want to take on a council member, that's fine, but it will not be used for personnel complaints to hammer home. No personnel complaints should be made during public comment from the podium during that meeting. I really wish you would take that sentiment and go back to that standard for yourself. All right, thank you all. I've listened carefully to each of your comments, and I want to close my discussion with this statement. The findings from the independent third-party investigation confirmed bullying and retaliatory conduct had occurred. If this had been any other employee, supervisor, or department head, the consequences would have been immediate and severe, most likely termination. As elected officials, we do not answer to department heads, we answer to the public, and that means we must hold ourselves to the same, if not higher, standard of conduct that we expect from every city employee. This kind of behavior is destructive to organizations, it undermines the trust of professionalism that our employees deserve, and it distracts from the work that we do, which is the people's business. It also comes at significant financial cost to this community. The independent investigation, not including the administrative resources required to address this conduct, have cost the city more than $32,000 to date, and that is taxpayer funds that could have been supported city programs, services, or community needs. The pattern of this behavior has extended beyond your inappropriate actions towards staff. It has included attacks towards each of us sitting up here. It has included disparaging remarks to other elected officials within our community, and it has included disrespectful comments towards our constituents. You have made repeated attacks on local service clubs and community organizations, special districts that serve our residents, and publicly attacked vendors and contractors who do business within the city of Oakley, including one incident that occurred just this past week. This behavior erodes trust, harms partnerships, and creates unnecessary division within the council and throughout our community. We are here to serve with integrity, to lead with respect, and to build trust, not to erode it. This censure is not about personal politics. It's about upholding the integrity of this city and reaffirming that Oakley will not tolerate bullying, retaliation, or abusive behavior at any level, including within this council. Therefore, consistent with the language in the resolution of censure and in the best interest of this city and the community we serve, I am formally calling upon Councilmember Fuller to resign from office. It is my sincere hope that you, Councilmember Fuller, reflect on the harm that this conduct has caused to the staff, to the council, and to the public trust, and take the responsible step of stepping down so that Oakley can begin to heal and move forward. And with that, I will now entertain a motion to adopt the resolution as presented.
I
So
move approval.
Fine, I can second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
All right, passes 4-1. And with that, we are going to take a short break, and we will come back for the conclusion of the meeting. All right. Thank you for the short break. In light of the time and the night, we are going to continue our closed session to a date uncertain. Attorney Cole will let us know when that can come back. And if it is the pleasure of the council, I would like to forego reports and just adjourn the meeting.
Can I just ask one question about that? I have very good reports, which I'm sure everybody here is surprised about. Can we submit them to city clerk so they can at least be reflected
Yeah, if we
somewhere?
would like to submit if we have any reports that we would like to submit, would it be okay if we submitted those in writing to be put a part of the minutes? Would that be? Yes, that's acceptable. We can make that part of the minutes. All right, so everyone in?
I'm good with it.
Okay.
Good.
All right, so with that, we will adjourn this meeting at 9:49 p.m.